Hello! Do believe I'm live, not without issue, as ever. Right, let me catch up on the chat. Whoa, you've been busy. Hello, Paul. Hello, Jonathan.
I've been keeping them entertained.
Really?
Whilst you've been struggling.
It's the weekly struggle. It's showing me episode 91. It won't let me move past that. So we nearly had episode 91, but not to worry. I've sort of beaten it into submission, but only marginally. So we'll see how we get on. Hopefully you can hear me. That would be a start.
I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Right, so hello Paul, hello Jonathan, hello Kim. Hello Mike, you're in there too. Excellent. It's actually, the weather's improved considerably in terms of being a little bit cooler. My Echo assures me it's 17 degrees, which is 14 degrees cooler than it was earlier today. Problem is, in the office, not quite so much. But it's better than it was before, so you can't say fairer than that, can you? Right, let me catch up. Hello, Neil. Hello, Paul. Got another Paul there. Paul Murphy, good morning. I'm catching up with the chats. Is dairy not good for dogs? Don't tell Lola.
No, dairy's okay for dogs. It's cats.
Cats eat milk, though. I drink milk. CQ Deb. Right, have I said hello to everybody? I think I have. Hello, Deb, and hello, Deborah. Oh, we've got the Debs in. All of them. And hello, is that... Oh, I can't quite see properly. Let me have a look. Is it Rains? Hello, good to meet you. Right, okay. All sorts of things going crazy here, but let's just get on with it. And if it all falls over, let's not worry about it. My spare machine that I usually use to monitor the broadcast, not working. So let's just close the lid on that and get rid of it. I'm going to make sure you can see my desk, which is a lovely blue desktop. And somewhere I've even got Keynote. There we go. So let's get that up. And hopefully you can all see that. I think this time I've had to shrink the text on the what we're doing slide to the smallest it's ever been. We've got loads to cover, so we will bat on through it. First of all, we have the week at MacBites headquarters. Been a busy old week because it's been WWDC. Thursday, not good. Notion broke. Or was that Wednesday? It's all in a blur. But I will show you why I think Notion is totally balked, and we'll see what Notion have got to say about it. I promised that we would look at liquid text for macOS, and it was due out the third week in June, so we will do that. Then I've got a new app that's totally free called CustomShortcuts, so I'll be showing you that. Then we had requests for explanations thereof and demonstrations of clipboard extenders and text expanders. I have not put an application name there because it doesn't matter which one you use. Doesn't matter if you're on Windows or if you're on Mac. They do the same functionality. It's just best how to deploy it and the things that you could use it for that you might not have thought of. Then we've got interactive adventures. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's actually really good, that. Liking that one. Then I've got a couple of freebies. Then Mike's doing his Power BI next steps. Couldn't make his mind up between 102 and 201. So we went for next steps. Then we have bingo. Yes, bingo cards. We had bingo cards for WWDC. And that was fabulous. We enjoyed it. But what did it take to create them? Answer, a lot more than it should have done. And a lot more than it did years ago. It should not be the case that 8 years on from the first time you've done it, it takes you longer than it did in 2012. But it did. Finally, do you remember weeks and weeks and weeks ago, when it was in black and white with somebody playing a piano, I started making a new YouTube channel trailer. And then Camtasia got upset with me. Don't know why, just did. Anyway, I've beaten that into submission as well. So it's alive. It's actually there now, not as my channel trailer. I've uploaded the video. I thought I'd make it my channel trailer with you guys witnessing it, just to prove that it did actually work. So, loads to do. Let's get on. Make sure that you are watching in the best quality. On the cog, lower right hand corner of your video, make sure you've got 720 selected. And while you're down there, if you find something that you enjoy, give it a like. It really does make a difference. But what have we been up to this week? Saturday, as you know, as many of you now know, because you join us.
You're getting praised here in the chat.
Am I? I can't see the chat.
Elaine has the best voice and animated vocal commentary for training and passing it on educational information on YouTube, so I can't miss this one.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, whoever that was.
That's from Rains Priest.
Oh, good. Good to have you with us. Saturday, every Saturday, since lockdown, we've done a music request show on our other radio station. We have a MacBites radio station at MacBites FM, but we also have a Brooklands196.com radio station. And on a Saturday, we've been doing a request show. Somebody gently described it as eclectic this week. I read that as anything goes, which, to be honest, it does. So many of you have joined us, which is great. So hopefully you'll be there tomorrow. We're doing it all again tomorrow. But we did it last week and it was fantastic. No video of Mike, unfortunately, but I'll get some tomorrow. Then Sunday, we had a conversation. You'll remember this conversation, Mike. We had a conversation. We've long said, while we've been doing Marooned at MacBites headquarters, which is our daily chat show, that we are, us and America seem to be separated by a common language. We had a discussion about Scotch eggs. And this week, Scotch egg, left-hand side. So I thought, oh, my salad and a Scotch egg. So I'll take a photo. So this is what we would consider to be a Scotch egg, because we haired off on a discussion about what Scotch eggs were, which is a boiled egg wrapped in pork, wrapped in sort of breadcrumbs or crispy bits on the outside. But then we looked up recipes. And they looked very different. I said, that's not quite how our Scotch eggs look. That is what our Scotch eggs look like. So you didn't miss out. Before I even started eating, I'm taking photos of my lunch so you can see what a Scotch egg looks like. That is indeed a Scotch egg with my chicken salad. So there you go. Now, on Monday, hugely busy day. We did a Marooned at MacBites headquarters 3 hours early. 4 o'clock, because it was WWDC. So at 5 o'clock we had a MacBites Live, followed at 6 o'clock by Apple. And all they had to say, which was, they called it Big Sur. I wondered about that. I'm not keen on the name. As I said to Mike, I thought they'd surpass themselves with El Capitan, but apparently not. They really did call it Big Sur. I'm calling it Biggles, because I think it's far cuter. We always called it Tabby Cat. Before we know what it is, we call it Tabby Cat. So the artist formerly known as Tabby Cat is now officially known as Big Sur, but at MacBites headquarters is known as Biggles. And at the end of their presentation, we pretty much had more questions than answers, because they made huge announcements, but nothing actually there yet. So we had much to talk about. So after Apple had finished, I can't remember what time that was, but I think you were still in your meeting, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
We carried on. Oh boy, did we talk about it. Do you know, if you were with us from start to finish on Monday, it was 5 hours. What a start to the week. But we had plenty to talk about. Which took us to Tuesday, which was also an incredibly important day here. And to share it with you. It was episode 100 of Marooned at MacBites headquarters. Who'd have thought? 16th of March was the day we started, and we used to have on the poster at the top, join us every night this week, because we were going to do it for 5 nights. We're now up to 104 we did today, didn't we? It was 103. 103 today. By Wednesday, somebody was a bit giddy, weren't they, Mike? There was a United match on that he could actually watch bits of. There was even a virtual programme. Can't say I like the redesign, but there was a virtual program, and even better than that, Mike was a very happy bunny. They won 3-0. Excellent. My day, not quite so good. Notion broke. What you see on the left is what I used to have, and I was happy with what I used to have, so they should have left me be. What I've got now is on the right. I wondered too. I have arrows I don't need, I have missing icons, and I have missing artwork next to the 26th. So I wasn't very happy, and that was before I even got going as to where the icons had gone. Wasn't happy with the arrows, even less happy with that, unfortunately. But more on that later. Then we got to Thursday. Oh, how could we summarise Thursday? It was too hot. Really seriously hot. I appreciate many of you may be in places where it's hotter than that, and you might think that's not hot. It is hot in the UK. We have no concept of air conditioning. Plus the fact he was lying through his teeth. 33.3, he said, was the hottest in the day anywhere in the UK. He was lying. 46.1. Don't think so, mate. Our tech did not like it. So off to the fridge it went. My iPhone had long given up. Poor MacBites Siri. He had to recover himself. So he sat in the fridge for a bit and recovered. We were promised cooler overnight. It's still too hot. It's so hot. Lola hid her ears, didn't she? Lest they got burnt. Look, she's hidden an ear. In fact, she's hidden both of them, but one in particular. Oh, isn't she gorgeous? So that was today. That was the entire week. Let's get on and have a look at my Notion nightmare. Why? So this is the problem. There used to be different types of links in Notion, and as you all know, I adore Notion. So what I've got there on the left is exactly what I wanted to have. Where the icon is that says 26, and then there's a date next to it, that's actually a link. It's what's called an inline link. I appreciate there's no underlines on it. I didn't mind. I made the page. I knew it was a link. The ones lower down are also inline links. They rolled out an update, the sole purpose of which seemed to be adding underline capabilities to Notion. That was it. It was so little of an update as far as they were concerned. They didn't do the usual, ooh, banners, balloons, party. Go and look at what we've changed. It just happened. And I'm looking, thinking, what's going on? It's broken. The view on the right is taken from the Notion app. It's totally broken. In a browser, it's not as badly broken. But what they've done is they've indicated a link to be an inline link in two ways now, instead of none. One, they've got that arrow, which is hideous, and then two, they've underlined it. I don't really have an issue with the underlining, apart from the fact that if you're going to underline something, why not use the colour of the text and not the grey? But that's a whole different business. But obviously the icons have totally gone. Now, some people have said, like, don't see the issue. Notion don't seem to be able to see the issue, so let me explain what the issue is by actually going into Notion and having a look at it. So I will show it to you first in a browser because that's less broken, but it is actually fully broken if we go into Notion. So we'll have Notion up as a secondary thing. Where have you disappeared to, Notion? Ah, there you are. And you're having a think about loading. Right. There's that. So you previously had different types of links. So here you go. If we were going to, let's just take this link here, which is a video. Okay, so I've copied and pasted a link on my keyboard. Right, I go into Notion and I paste it. Right, and that's what it always did. It said dismiss, embed the video. If it's a YouTube video, create a bookmark. So one option was just to dismiss it and you would be left with that kind of link. Another option is to paste it in, and because it's a YouTube video, actually embed the video within Notion. So by the end of this, you should realise there is a million things that you can be doing with the videos and the links. You paste a link. That's taking a long time, isn't it, for a tiny video? Notion seems to be very upset at the moment, but we'll carry on and it'll appear in due course. Right, the next thing you can do is create a bookmark. And that goes and fetches a preview, which is what's taking the time. I have no idea why it's taking so long. There we go. Oh, it's all sorted out. Excellent. So the first one's just a clickable link that will take you there. Second one is the embedded video. Third one, bookmark. So Notion's always been about giving you very many different ways to do virtually the same thing, or at least, I mean, each one of those is a link. It will ultimately take you to YouTube. They're just different ways of doing it. So, what if the link wasn't to something external? What if it was to something inside Notion? Because that's how Notion works. So if I go to my MacBites 2.0, which is my MacBites dashboard, there's a whole host of things going on in here. But basically we have every show at the top in columns, in little tables. What if I wanted to put a link to this page on my other page? And you had a few options to do it. So, first way was to go up here and choose copy link. So that copies the link to this page. You then go back to our links page where I'm just using this page to paste links in, and I've moved down the page a bit. And the first thing I can do is paste it. And I get an option to either dismiss it, which will just leave that link sat there as it is. So that was one option, which is not pretty, is it? Not pretty at all.
Jonathan's getting giddy.
Why is Jonathan getting giddy?
Because he's seen MacBites 130.
Steady on, Jonathan. Steady on. Right, so the second way I've done this is that you can put in a link to a page. So this is the way it's always been. And this particular method is exactly the same now as it has been. And by telling you it's a link to a page, you get a totally different look to it. And you always had that arrow. So that's one way to create a link to a page in Notion. But there has always been another way to do it. Because if you can imagine having that link, there's no way you could put in here, like, note to make about updating the. And what I now want to say is MacBites 2.0 page. You might think, well, I can just grab that. No, that is a block in its own right. I can't just click at this end of it. I can't click into it like I can in here, or even this one. I can't click into it. The whole thing is a link. Because of that, they gave you the option to create inline links. All you needed to do was say @ and start typing. Start typing the name of the page. So it's found a page, MacBites 2.0, and it didn't used to look like that. It used to have no arrow, but where there is a blank space being there used to be an icon, the icon of the page. So, not great. They have told me, because I expressed my displeasure, that there is a workaround. To Mile, that should say Mike, crying out loud. Right, the workaround that they would want is, so let's take the same text up there. Right, about updating their workaround is this. MacBites 2. So I've got to type it, basically, and then I have to go back and select it. Then I have to go to the page. Then I have to go up here and do the copy link. So back up there and copy link. Back down to where I was. Have you lost the will to live yet? Go find the text again, highlight that, and then paste the link in. They're telling me that's the alternative. That is not the alternative, because now I've got no icon. So now I can't differentiate whether that is an internal link or an external link. Is it to a website? I don't know. So updating the MacBites 2.0 page in Notion, and we need to update, and then say the MacBites website. Right, so I get the MacBites website, and then I'll add a link to that. Then I'll put MacBites in there. Can't tell the difference. One's inline to Notion, the other external to a website. If it had looked like it looked before, so we've seen that on an image. Obviously, I can't show you that in here because it just doesn't work like that anymore. But this bit here, if there was then basically I just want that with an icon next to it. No arrow, just an icon. But in the app, as you can see, I should be seeing an icon, but it's broken, so I'm not. So that's what it looks like in the Notion app. Totally broken. In the browser, where did we go? Let's get that on here. Right. It's all the work we've done. At least in the browser, the icon's back. So in the browser, I can see the icon. I cannot see the browser, the icon in the Notion client. But as far as I'm concerned, the option of, well, you can type it in, it's hideously long-winded, because the point is, the MacBites 2.0 page is at the top. It's in my workspace at the top here. But I also have databases with 1,000 records in, and I might just want to refer to one of those. I'd have to go and find it. I'd be there all day. It's far easier, quicker to just mention it. But now I've got this. What I thought made it a million times worse, but is very interesting, is this is what I created before. And this was me playing around to prove the point with things not working. I should have taken a screenshot because, in fact I might have done, in which case I'll dig it out. Because what was happening up to lunchtime today was that the arrow on the link to page was on the left of the icon and the arrow on the inline link was on the right. So that made it even worse. Now they're both in the same place, but it's equally hideous. So that to me is broken. Inline means inline. It means unobtrusively inline. It does not mean with a dirty great big arrow next to my icon. But what do you think? Let me know. I would love to be able to see the control room for this, and I will when I come out.
They have let you know in the chat.
Have they? What are they saying?
That's not a workaround. You might as well not bother. You lose your train of thought doing that.
Exactly.
Kim says, Johnny, I'd be too distracted doing it all. It was so easy before. Johnny says, why couldn't they give everyone a preference? That way everyone's a winner.
Well, that was my point. There may be people who prefer that, but I certainly don't prefer that. I'd object less if the arrow was a very, very pale grey. But I don't see why it needs that, because you've got the icon. Well, you would have if you weren't using the app, because the app's broken, but that's a different story. You'd know it was an external one. It's slightly different. But the workaround they've given me is just like, are you for real? So I thought, don't reply while you're very annoyed. Reply later when you've thought it through. But what is increasingly annoying is they're also, they're one of the updates they brought out a couple of weeks back, if you remember. You could type a colon and then type like smile, and you'd get lots of smileys, and you could choose a smiley. Look where the insertion point is. Just look at that. It's right next to it. So if I start typing smiling, that's not good. So I go back and I put a space in. That gap has been doubling and halving literally every other day. And I'm going in, I'm thinking there's a big gap there. I put 2 spaces in, and no, I haven't. So I take one out and there's an automatic space, and the next day, no. So that takes a long time for you to go back through pages that you've done that now don't look right. So I will put together a bit of a video explaining my displeasure as to the issues with that, and we'll see where we go. Got to agree with Jonathan, just give me an option. It must be styled somehow. They're not styling it manually, are they? So it's styled based on the content, based on what it is. So if you are an internal link, you look like that. If you're an inline link, you look like that. It must be styled with some sort of processing, intelligent processing, based on what it is, just like CSS. So give me an option. It's silly. What makes it even more ludicrous at the moment is that Rome have just rolled out CSS styling. You can have it look however you like. All you need to do is literally create a page called Rome CSS and then put in what you want. And there's a million different themes kicking around the internet now. Just download one and everything changes. And they're making it worse, not better. But that was Notion this week. I've been happier. Not happy. Not happy at all. And the fact that it's totally broken in the app doesn't help. They've said with that it looks like it's broken. I involved Sherlock at that point. Oh, now don't you start. Come on. Right, let's move on to liquid text. Well, shall we just say this is also not a highlight of my week. If you recall, we've talked about liquid text before. It's an app that's been available on iPad for ages. It's very different in concept to just a PDF reader. So you have your PDF on, in this case, the left-hand side, and you can pull parts of it out onto a canvas. It's fabulous. Notice what you're looking at there. The Mac version. And we talked about it 3 weeks ago, because 3 weeks ago, the Windows version came out. So I downloaded it, got it installed. Yep, nice. And I promised that I would be covering it again. So this is what we've got on the Windows version. I haven't done the in-app purchase. It all works on in-app purchases. But really, I was waiting for the Mac version, because it would be fantastic to have that collaborative approach between my iPad and my desktop. And yes, I use Windows once a week. I like taking a vitamin once a day. I use it once a week, but I wanted the Mac version. There's good news. It's here. Then things started to get weird. That was what I saw. And if we look at the top right-hand corner, that download icon indicates you've already bought it or got it for free. Curious. I definitely haven't, because it's only just available, as you can see from when the screenshot was taken 3 days ago. I have not downloaded that. I can prove I have not downloaded that. I am not on Catalina, so I definitely have not been able to buy that app. So what's going on? And what's going on is it seems to be this integration that Apple are creating between the iOS App Store and the Mac App Store, and that this app is aware of my other purchase. Nothing else makes sense. It's got to be something like that. So that was my first calamity. I'm not on Catalina, so I won't be able to demo it until I am. But it looks reasonable. It looks very pretty. It's very annoying. It is very annoying. It's more than very annoying, because I've got another app like that, GoodNotes. And GoodNotes needs Catalina on the desktop. Obviously, what you'd be thinking is, well, you'll update. That's what they want you to do. You'll update to Catalina. No, I took a totally different approach. I switched to something else. I stopped using it on iOS. I don't think that's what they're after. But I won't be able to demonstrate that until I upgrade to Catalina on my main Mac. And if I upgrade to Catalina on my main Mac, might not be able to broadcast. So we'll see how that goes. I could always do a video if I had any machine on Catalina, which I don't. But if you are interested, there is a free 14-day trial. And then everything you want to purchase, or might want to purchase, is an in-app purchase. So for the Pro version, it's $28.99. If you're a student, it's $19.99. I have no idea how they work out if you're a student or not, unless it goes on an academic email address. Then there's this weird thing at the bottom, which is $14.99 for multi-dock users. Multi-dock users. Now, multi-dock is a feature of the application. When it first came out, it only had the ability for you to open one PDF and summarise and make notes on one single PDF. After it had been out a while, they added the ability to open multiple PDFs, and they called it multi-dock, and it was an in-app purchase. Now, way back at the beginning, it was either $3.99 or $4.99 for that in-app purchase, and I bought it. Since then, they've brought out this Pro version with all the different features, and I mentioned to you I seem to have that, and I didn't buy it. So it must have been free to multi-dock users. I have no idea what $14.99 for multi-dock users means. I would love to be able to tell you, but you don't get any details of how the in-app purchases work until you've got the app. which would necessitate upgrading to Catalina. So obviously, catch-22. It could mean multi-dock in this app on the Mac, which is highly unlikely. Or it could mean that you've got the iOS version and you've paid for the in-app purchase in that. I've no idea. When I know, I will let you know. But I will definitely do a demo of some way of summarising your PDFs. It just might not be liquid text. But I will do something. So there's one demo down. That annoys me as well. Luckily, I have better news. I have a freebie. I have a free app. It's from the people who make Whodaspot, which is the great search app that I've recommended many, many times on the Mac. It's very simple. It does one thing. And you may think, I've got, one, I have no need for that, and two, there's a built-in way of doing that. Right, there is a built-in way of creating custom shortcuts, and that's your system preferences. Let me know in the chat if you've ever done that. One of the common uses for it is to make it that you, every time you bring the print dialog box up, you have a shortcut key to create a PDF. I installed that on my Mac years ago, I think with my very first Mac, and it's one of the system preferences I change as soon as I set a Mac up. Now, the benefits of using the system preferences to create custom shortcuts are that the shortcuts you create appear in the menu of the application. But the downside of them is you have to set them up manually on each Mac. There's no way that it's configured in such a way that you can send it up to iCloud and have it synchronized, you know, like in a civilized world. You have to do it per Mac. Once you've set them up, there's also no independent way to back them up. They are backed up automatically as part of your system if you make like a clone of your hard drive, but there's no way to actually back them up independently. My best advice if you are intending to use shortcuts in the system preferences would be to take screenshots. I know it's prehistoric, but it's the easiest way to do it. Now, the only benefit to doing it in the system preferences, as far as I was concerned, was the shortcuts are in the menu. So if you're thinking, what was the shortcut that I set up to do something? Just check the menu, and the right shortcut will be there. But that was far outweighed by the fact I had to set up every Mac independently, and I was like setting something up at the beginning, and I might have had 10 of them, and I knew all 10, and it was great. And then I create another one, and I go to a different Mac, and it's not there. And I'm like, what did I set? Oh dear. And I have to set it all up manually. I did that. I should have changed that. That should not say Custom Shortcut. That should say Keyboard Maestro, which it will later, which is the app that I use. But the disadvantage with Keyboard Maestro, apart from the fact there's a heck of a learning curve, and it's expensive if you don't use the rest of it, but the benefit of it is it does synchronize the settings between the Macs. It has completely independent backup. It synchronizes with Dropbox. It's civilized, except it doesn't put its shortcuts in the menu. That would be fine if it just left them blank, but it's worse than that. It actually leaves you the original ones. So that's terrible. You're now using one shortcut, but in the menu, it tells you to use a different one, but that different one may or may not work depending. Not good news, is it? But that's what this is for. This is Custom Shortcuts from the people who make Whodaspot. And the benefits of this is it's incredibly easy to use. You don't need to go into your system preferences. The shortcuts do appear in the menu, and they are correct. And you have a central place to manage these shortcuts. But at the moment, it's still a per Mac setup, and there's still no independent backup. However, this is a revision, 1.0000. I'm sure if we all send them some feedback, they'll find a way to do it. It would make sense to me to have the thing synchronizing via Dropbox. That would be perfect. But let's actually go and have a look at it. So I'm going to show you the 3 ways. So first of all, there's the system preferences. Have you ever done it the system preferences way? Right, so I'm in my system preferences. I do need to lose half these browsers that I've got open, which I don't need to have open. I'm trying to find the chat, but I'm not having much luck tonight with the other machine. Right, let's have a look what's going on in here. Hello, Paul. Good evening. Right, Jonathan needs to look at Keyboard Maestro. I like the idea of it, but I have a hard time remembering a handful of shortcuts already. Go at it one at a time, and don't just go in and think, because I did this at the beginning. First time I got Keyboard Maestro, it was like, wow, look at all it can do. And I went in and I set up, you know, a million different things. And, you know, a week later, I'd used one or two. And my rationale became, get rid of them all and put them in every time you find a problem that needs a solution. So I'll show you that when I show you Keyboard Maestro. But in here, you will be able to see, oh, one software update. That would be Catalina. So Deborah's only used system preferences because she's not good at shortcuts. Shortcuts will save you a ton of time. I have an app for that. Hang on. So in here, you need to go to your keyboard. And you have shortcuts in here. There's already millions of them set up. So some of them might actually be a way for you to say, do you know what, I don't want it to do that, and actually take one away. They're alive in here if they've got a tick in them, but you can see how many are in there. So there's keyboard ones, there's screenshot ones. So if you can just never get your head around those and you wish it was something else, you can do that in here and just change them. You've got a lot for services. There's acres of them. Look at them. Now, a lot of these have got ticks in the box and there is no shortcut for them. But there you go. There's loads and loads of them. Spotlight, you'll notice that I don't have the Spotlight ones enabled because I use Alfred. But yours may be enabled. This is where you'll find them. Then you've got accessibility shortcuts. Most of mine are turned off. They're turned off because if I use the accessibility options, I only want it on a shortcut key. I don't particularly want all of that to turn the zoom on or off, or zoom in or zoom out. Good grief, no. I want it really simple just for a demonstration. So I don't tend to use too many of those. But I do have in here some that are for my applications. So I have this global one, which shows the help menu. That's a really good one to remember. If you look at that and you memorise that, you only memorise one, that is a good one to memorise because it means in any application. So let's take, what have we got running? We've got a browser. There's a browser. Right, doesn't matter whether my browser, and that happens to be Chrome, I need to look up the help. I just use the same shortcut in every application, which is Command, Shift and /. And I can then start searching. Now you might think, well, you're searching through the help. No, I'm not. What you type in there... Oh dear. I'm assuming you could hear that. He's obviously in a rush. Let's say I'm looking for something in the menu in here. So I might want to... Let's have a look. Say I want to start the dictation or the speech or something. Right. Remember the shortcut key. Bring the shortcut key up and start typing. Apart from the fact that it's in a very bad mood tonight. There we go. Come on, think about it. Oh, there we go. It actually shows you all of the menu items. And as you get more granular, so if I started typing spelling, if I could spell, I'd be dangerous. There we go. It narrows it down even more. That works in every Mac application. I think I have only one that it doesn't work in. And that's Hindenburg. But Hindenburg is odd. For instance, he had Command and H doing something and I'm like, no, that hides the app. So I rewired the app. So Command and H did indeed hide it. Zoom, he had Command and H for Zoom. Why? Yes, that was chicken. Lola's decided to drag Mike outside. So this is one way that you can do it. And you can see that I've got a hoist binder and an unhoist binder. But I've said to you, haven't I, that I use Keyboard Maestro. So what are the Scrivener hoist binder and unhoist binder doing in here? That's a slight exception that I can show you another week if you're interested. If you are, let me know. The reason that I have those in there is it's the same shortcut key. If you look at that carefully, I've got two commands wired to the same shortcut key. Why would I do that? And it's because they're a toggle. The menu item for hoist binder disappears when it's hoisted, and vice versa. So I had to put it in here to make it work. That was a nightmare to set up. But those are the only ones that I have in there. So if I want to save a PDF to DevonThink, it's Control D. And if I want to save anything as a PDF from the print dialog, it's Command and P. So if I'm in my browser and I want to create a PDF, it's Command P, and I'm done. In fact, in pretty much any application. So that's how you set them up in here. So let's have a look at something for Keynote, which is under the Play menu, you have Play Slideshow. I can actually show you that. There's Play and there's Play Slideshow. The default key for that is Option Command P. But if you would find something else easier, you could set that up in here. This is how you would actually add it. You would add first of all, and you would need to tell it what. So Keynote. So you choose the application. Then you need to put in the exact name of the menu command you want to add. Now what it means by that is this bit here, Play Slideshow. So I would need to type Play Slideshow. While I'm doing this, you guys tell me when that would be a problem. When would that break spectacularly? So I put the menu in, and then I need to give it a shortcut key. So I'm going to make it something really ludicrous, like that, which is all the shortcut keys and 5, and then add it. Right, back over here, go into there, you can see that that has now overridden the default, which was Command Option P. So if I want to get this to play, so here's my presentation, and I want to get that to play, it would now be the new shortcut key, and it works. So let's go up one. There we go. That's where we were. Okay. So we know that that works. That's one way of doing it. Like I've said, disadvantage of that, you've got to come in here and fiddle with it. There's no icons to represent the apps. There's no telling you if it's clashed or not. You'd have to set it up independently on different machines. It's a nightmare. So if you want to get rid of it, just click the minus button and away it goes. Right, so that's the free way of doing it. And you can do that on a clean install. Don't need anything installed at all to make that work. Right, but I use Keyboard Maestro. And Keyboard Maestro is much more complicated. So here we go for Keyboard Maestro. Got all kinds of stuff in here. Let's start with something simple like this. Have I got any for Keynote? What have I got in Keynote? Oh, quite a few. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple, and I'll show you something in Affinity Designer. In Affinity Designer, there's a thing called the export persona, and I want to get to it with a shortcut key. But it got complicated. Look at that. Never mind what it's actually saying. I'll read it to you in English. When I press Command Option E, I want you to do the following. If the application, and this one's actually the beta for reasons best known to itself, right, Affinity Designer is at the front, then do the following, which is go to the front application, which we've already established is Affinity Designer, and where the menu title is Affinity Designer Beta, activate the export persona. Now, if it's not Affinity Designer Beta, if it's Affinity Designer, then go to the menu which is Affinity Designer and activate export persona. And it gives me a shortcut key to do something very simple that wouldn't take 5 seconds, I know, but I like to do it via a keyboard shortcut. Now, Paul's saying, whoa, it's complicated. It looks complicated, but actually it's pretty accurate. It's not that difficult. It's accurate to the point I can read it to you in English. You just need to know, I mean, you're not writing code, you're just filling in blocks. You just need to know which blocks to put in there and to put in them. Pixel personas, that's a bit easier, because with that one I'm not including the beta. So what I'm saying in here is, if I'm anywhere in the app and I want to go back to the pixel persona, just use Option Command P, and then you just say to it, make sure that Affinity Designer is at the front, activate the menu Affinity Designer and go to pixel persona, and that's it. So it looks more complicated than it is, honestly. As you can see, I've got loads of them. So down here I've got Hindenburg, and I've got hide Hindenburg, and make sure that Command and H hides it, and that's literally all it's doing. I've remapped Command and H, which was zooming in on the timeline, to be go to the Hindenburg menu and activate hide Hindenburg. Do that instead. That's pretty simple. I guess the interface isn't exactly welcoming, is it? But actually it's not that complicated. And unlike Jonathan, who's approached it in the way that I did, which is like, oh, this is so powerful, what can I do with it? Go the other way. Sit there. Imagine me sitting there, Command and H, I'll just hide Hindenburg. What's it done? I then find the shortcut key and think, okay, so Command and H zooms in. My first thought is, that's broken. My second thought is, I'll go into Keyboard Maestro and fix that. So I consider all the stuff that I put in Keyboard Maestro is fixing stuff. To me, Hindenburg, that's not right. It shouldn't be that. It should be Command and H hides it. But that's Keyboard Maestro. So, obviously that's expensive. Let's find the mid-range way to do it, which is, we have CustomShortcuts now, which is this free app. And what that will do, opens up like this, and it shows you what apps you've got running. There they all are. I'm wondering, actually, my poor computer's really suffering, Mike. I hope we've got no buffering. Right, what it's picked up here is that for all applications, Save as PDF is mapped to Command and P, and Save PDF to DevonThink is mapped to Control and D. Now, where did it get that from? Into the system preferences. That's where it's picked it up from. So if we go into our shortcuts here, and we go to App Shortcuts, that's where it's picked them up from. 1, 2. So that should tell you that this is just giving you a much nicer interface to get to here with. This is complicated. There's far too many things in there. This is simplifying that. So it's got all of those apps that I've got running. So I'm going to leave that over here out of the way. And what we'll do is we'll go back to Keynote. And you can see in there it's picked this up, which actually it shouldn't have, because I deleted it, if you remember. I took it out of the system preferences in there. So it should actually have been deleted. There's a bug before we go any further. Because the old one, if I bring that on, right, there's the presentation. If I go to play, that is the original shortcut. So that shouldn't be happening. Okay, I went in and that was blank. Right. First thing we need to do is lose that, and that should look like when you first come. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's better. Right. There should be nothing in there. So we've checked in here that Play Slideshow is Command Option P, but we want to change it to something else. Right. First thing you need to do is to go into there and type the name of the command. So Play Slideshow. Then you click in there and you give it a shortcut. I'll change the shortcut so it's 6, so we know that it's not just pulling it in from before. And that's all you need to do. If we now go back to Keynote and look in the play, it's automatically updated it. So this custom shortcuts app is to give you a nice friendly way to get to the shortcuts, and it's completely free. and you can add any more that you want. So you add extra at the bottom, or you can take them away. Did it pick up the Scrivener ones? It did. So it's even picked those up because they are being pulled through from the system preferences. But there's probably other stuff that there's nothing there. I think actually I did have one for Finder. Oh, my poor machine is very upset. It's going to be far too hot tonight because I'm far too hot tonight. It's not liking this, is it? Crying out loud. I'll leave that thinking about it while I go back in here. Oh, you found it now. So there's nothing in there either. So that, it does one thing. It does it well. At the moment, there's no way to back them up, but they've released this app. So I would imagine, it's fully functional, but I would imagine they would be looking to add things to it. So I'd certainly say to them, can we back them up somewhere? It must be able to do it, because it could back it up independently from the Custom Shortcuts app. When you load them into the Custom Shortcuts app, it should automatically feed back to the system preferences. So the app is just an interface to the system preferences, but it could have great potential if they add the options to backup and synchronize and Dropbox and stuff like that. That would be amazing. Right, so that was Custom Shortcuts. Now, what I do need to do is make sure that I'm not going to be able to use my presentation unless I get rid of that shortcut, am I? I'm going to have all kinds of chaos. Right, I'm going to go in and I will show you how you get rid of that one very easily. So that's the one we're after, and just take that away. And that will take it away from system preferences too. Okay, right, that was one bit. The next bit is once you've got all these shortcuts, you'll never remember them, which is exactly what Deb's just said. Right,
That's my problem as well.
There's a couple of things you can do about that. It depends on how serious you are about learning them. I've never actually gone for something like a cheat sheet, I must admit. This is a digital cheat sheet. What I did used to have, and that worked well until they got in my brain. Do you remember the old keyboards that had like a wide thing at the top? You used to put your keyboard shortcut thing on.
We used to have those at one of the old training companies, particularly something like WordPerfect.
I had one for WordPerfect, and I had it stuck on with blue tack, and it was fabulous. It was all colour coded and everything. This is like that, but it's digital. Right, it's really straightforward. So I'm going to bring Keynote back again. Don't think it matters if that goes full screen. Right. There are a million shortcuts in here. Hopefully they're all back to normal. Yep, 2 and P. But what are they? What's the shortcut for making some text superscript? I don't have a clue. But if I hold my command key down, I get that, and it shows me all of the shortcut keys that are active in here, which is fabulous. So all I'm doing is holding down the command key for 3 seconds, and it's showing me the shortcut keys here. So if I wanted to do, let's have a look, a find, it actually activates it for me, but it also tells me what that shortcut key is. Now this is also completely
Johnny says
free.
he needs this.
He needs this. This is also free. So what happened this week was I got an email from the people about custom shortcuts, and they said, but obviously once you've got loads and loads of shortcuts, you'll never remember what they are. Let us introduce you to custom shortcut cheat sheet, which I've put the link in there, haven't I, Mike?
Yeah, I'll stick it in the chat.
I'm ahead of myself. Right, does it do shortcuts assigned to other applications? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's going to show you whatever application you have active. So if I bring on my browser and I hold down my command key for 3 seconds, which feels like an eternity. Why is it not working in Chrome? That could be because I'm not on a website. Let's go to a website. Okay, let's go get a different browser. What are you? You're Firefox. Fabulous. Got you open because I need you later. Do you know what? It's just actually opened on the other screen. Crying out loud. Talk about be the... Right, there we have a browser. Let's do the 3 second thing. It's opening on the other screen. Oh, for crying out loud. Yes, it does work on other apps. It's just having a moment. It's worth downloading and trying. There are a couple of other apps that are a little bit like that. Do you see that flash up then as I move from screen to screen? How annoying. Right, there are a couple of others that do similar kind of thing, but this one's totally free. So download it and give it a go. What I'd say in terms of shortcuts is, honestly, when you get a new app, you are totally overwhelmed with them. There's an app that I've got. Let me show you how totally overwhelmed I'd be.
Neil says, does the custom shortcut app import those already set or just the ones you set yourself? Because he's got nothing in there.
Oh, should have. Should have. It should show what's actually active. It should show that. Right. All of those are shortcuts for Hindenburg, and they are for editing. So they are the commands that I consider to be the most important. Marking a point in, marking an out, doing a pre-roll, exporting, playing and pausing, all of that. Those are the ones I consider to be the most important. And all of them have keys in here. So at the bottom here, where it says simulate keyboard keystroke, right, all of them have commands in there. Some of them are very simple, some of them less so. But the majority of these are pretty simple, aren't they? But it's remembering what they do. Another thing that Keyboard Maestro does is allow you to create all of those in there, but what that's actually doing is making my Stream Deck work. So this is another use for shortcuts. But if you were to say to me, what's the key to do X in Hindenburg? I'm not 100% sure, because I use that instead. But if it's something that I'm sat here and I'm learning a new app and I know that I want to be quicker with it, learn one shortcut key every day or something like that. But give the shortcut cheat sheets a go. Again, I think that's relatively new, and at the moment it's free. But it looks like they're working in conjunction, to be honest. So I'm hoping for big improvements down the line. But definitely give it a go. Right, okay, now the next two bits were requests from you guys. You wanted to know about clipboard extenders, so I thought I'd start right at the beginning, because we all think we know about cut, copy and paste. And to be honest, many of us probably do. But there was a time when with computers there was no concept of cut, copy, paste. And I'm old enough to remember that. But this gentleman is Mr. Cut, Copy and Paste. He actually was in the news in February this year when he sadly died. But he was the gentleman who invented cut, copy, paste. That is Larry Tesler. And at the time he was working for Xerox. It did come to the Mac, cut, copy, paste, and it was lauded as being revolutionary. So the very first, I think it was the Lisa, and possibly the Apple II maybe before that. But it was one of the things that was wow. Now, you know what it does, but let me just explain so we all know what it does. You have something, text, image, files, could be anything that is copyable. That's on the left-hand side. When you make a copy, you copy that into the RAM of your computer. It's not, some people have said to me like, oh, when you've copied it, where does it go? And this is the whole problem. It goes into the RAM of your computer. You then decide where you want to paste it, and it then appears where you want to paste it. So if it's text and it's going from a text file into Word, and we start on the left in the text file, copy, goes to RAM, then pastes into Word. If you're doing the copy thing, you can copy from the left into RAM and then paste it numerous times. This is what that looked like as a concept when it was first thought of. That's the actual diagram. That's the kind of stuff we look at all week, isn't it? But basically it's doing the same thing as I've just done, just not as friendly, which is saying there is a user interface, left-hand side, that's the source. You can then, and they've got a cut command in there, and they've also got a copy command in there, but basically it goes to the clipboard and then is pasted in a destination, which is exactly what I said. So let's simplify it. Right. You have a source, one item. It is copied to the clipboard, which is a dedicated area of memory in your computer. one item. So the one item you copied. Now, when I say one item, it could be a collection of items, but taken together, it is one thing. And then that one thing is placed on the clipboard and then is pasted into the destination. Cut starts the same way. You have one item or collection of items in the source. You copy it up to the clipboard and it is then pasted in the destination. But cut does one more thing, and that is it nukes it from the source. That's the basics of a clipboard. It is surprising how many people they use cut, copy, paste, but have never actually broken it down into what if I had to design that, what would that have looked like and how does it work? So I've had people say to me, to be honest, a lot less frequently now, but I remember starting training in the mid-90s and I can't tell you how many people said, well, I was working in this file, this isn't working properly. And I say, well, what's the matter? Well, I cut this thing and I came to paste it, it won't paste. And I said, okay, where did you copy it from? Where did you cut it from? Turns out they copied it or cut it 3 days ago and they've rebooted the machine 3 times since then. And they expected it to be on the clipboard. It doesn't work like that. It's a very, very transient area of memory. It could even be you cough and it loses it from memory. So don't treat the single clipboard on any computer as being, I'll put it up there, it'll be there forever, because it won't. Many things could impact it. Obviously, copying something else will impact it. It will be shoved out to the other end and the new item placed in. Another thing that could happen is on your phone or your iPad, iPad only fundamentalist much. Yeah, it still works this way. Still got rubbish in terms of a clipboard. You go into your password manager and you copy a password. And 5 minutes later you try pasting it in and nothing pastes. That's because it nuked itself after 90 seconds. So don't ever rely on the clipboard unless you have a clipboard extender, which does this. You copy one or more items from your source location. It gets transferred onto your clipboard, which is held in RAM. But it also gets transferred to your clipboard extender, the blue box, which can handle any number of items you choose to enable it to handle. The item that's on the clipboard then can be pasted in at the destination, or, this is the real power of it, you can, instead of using the contents of the clipboard now to paste, you can go to your clipboard extender and choose anything that's in there and paste that instead. And the clipboard extender exists across reboots. So clipboard extender is your friend. If you haven't got one, you really need one. And we all need one on the iPhone. But the iPhone works the traditional way. Cut or copy, paste. Done. That's it. You can paste the same thing again as long as it's not automatically nuked, but there's no concept of having multiple clipboards unless you use some kind of app. And even then, it's not automatic. You've got to deliberately copy and go and paste into your clipboard app, because all apps are sandboxed on iOS to such a degree, there's no way one app can run in the background and be copying everything. Apple won't let it. But on the Mac, that is possible. And I have used an app called Copied, which is the one I'm actually using in anger at the moment. But there's also one called Copy and Paste, which is also very, very good. A free option, if you've got Alfred and you have already purchased the Power Pack, is that Alfred can do this for you. So I'll show you the basics of what I use, and then I'll show you how you could set Alfred up. In fact, I use both. Belt and braces. It wouldn't be the first time one stopped working. Right, let's go and have a look.
Neil uses Paste, it's on Setup.
Paste is on Setup, and there's a couple of others that I've put in there as well. There's iClip and... what was the other one called? Unclutter will do it for you. There's lots of them. It doesn't matter which one you use, give or take. Right, let's do it in Pages so we can put all kinds of things in there. So if it stops running, that's not good. If it stops running, and sometimes it does, you know, it just crashes and you don't particularly know. That's why I have two of them, but that probably is overkill. Come on. Oh, I think I'm going to have to put a fan on this machine. But it's because I'm doing stuff. Right, I've got some questions. Can you use the default Control and V to paste in paste? Oh, he's asking Neil. Fair enough. Command even. Right. You should be able to... what is it you're trying to copy and paste, Jonathan? What's causing the problem? Because if you look at me here, if I put my name, and if I paste at the moment, you can see I copied the word play. So if I go up here, it's Command and C, Command and V. So it should automatically use Command V and Command C to copy and paste. What's happening to you? Which one are you using and what key does it need? So from a basic it'll copy text perspective, fabulous. Right, but obviously you need it to do more than that. So I have mine configured and I've had it on various keys. So let's have a look. Jonathan says he uses the Alfred clipboard. You want to always use the clipboard manager, not the standard one. So Neil's got his on Command Shift V. Well, I'll show you what I'm doing here, Jonathan, and maybe that'll clear it up. If I want to paste the last thing I copied, which in this circumstance I did, then it's just Command and V. Now you're saying you want to always use the clipboard manager, not the standard one. So basically take the standard one away from Apple and give it to Alfred. Well, the thing is, Jonathan, when you say the standard one, there really isn't anything, there's nothing there to see. There's nothing to configure with the Apple one or anything. So even when you deploy your clipboard extenders, you're not actually saying and don't use the Apple one. The whole thing is hooking into the Apple mechanism. You just need to tell it what shortcut key you would like to use. So what I've done with this is just say, when I copy, Command and C, put it on the clipboard, and when I paste, use the thing that's on my clipboard to paste it in. I have something else going on somewhere else that you might need to think about. So let's change the colour of that to red and make it bold and change that. Right, so now I've got that and I'm going to copy it. So I've copied it. When I paste that in, I'm pasting it with the format. But if I use a different keyboard shortcut, which isn't working today, oh, crying out loud, you should be able to paste that in with no format. So actually what the problem could be is there's already format there. There we go. So as long as I'm pasting it into somewhere where there is no format already, so let's copy that, go down to there with that. Let's go back up here, copy, and then paste as plain text. So pasting as plain text is something that you would need to think about as well. I use that all the time. I have that set up in Alfred and I use it all the time. It's a global thing. But what we're talking about is the clipboard. So I'm going to put a shape in there as well. Oh, we'll have a speech bubble, I think. Let's put that in. Let's have it a nice colour. There we go. So it doesn't have to be text. Copying that, going somewhere else and pasting, and it just pastes it in. Now, what's happening in the background? Good morning, Peter. Good to have you with us. What's happening in the background is not only is this would be happening even if I had no clipboard extender running. As Jonathan's saying, it's the Apple way. Yes, it is. It's built in. Command and C, Command and V. Command and X, Command and V. They're all together. They all do the same thing. But once you've got a clipboard extender, you can go back. It's like having rewind on your copy and paste history. So I'm going to put in another couple of shapes in here so we've got something to actually see. Oh yes, who doesn't need a pink star? And a nice gold speech thing. So I'm going to copy that, copy that. Let's make one of these instances of my name a nice blue one and copy that. Right, all the while I'm doing that, obviously now I've copied the blue Elaine, the shapes I copied before have gone. But what if in the meanwhile I'd done that? And saved the file. Or added more text that I don't want to delete, so I can't use the undo thing. That's the situation when your clipboard manager becomes helpful. So my clipboard manager at the moment is copied. I've used that for a while. I used copy and paste. I moved to copied because it synchronises with iOS. That's the sole reason that I moved. But I think I might switch back. So I make it that the shortcut keys are always pretty much the same. So I bring my copied interface up, and it's actually opened it on the other screen, and it's opened it up on the other screen because I've made this screen smaller. But there you go, that's what my clipboard extender looks like. So if I drag that down, there it is. There's iClip. I mentioned iClip. I've got YouTube links and all sorts in there. But basically I bring it on and off the screen with a shortcut key. My shortcut key is Option Shift and C. Now, at that point, what I'm doing is I'm not changing the shortcut to paste. It's just to bring that on the screen so I can see it. And here are the things that I deleted. So there's nothing to stop me in here. Bringing that back. There we go. So as long as you've got that active, you bring it back, you just double click, and it starts putting stuff, pasting in what's on the clipboard. So you have access to everything that you have previously copied. Right, let's bring that back a bit more. Right, you've also got, there's the links, there's my Notion links, there was the bit telling Mike to update, and there's a YouTube link. All of these are accessible for me in here. So if someone said to me, like iClip's another one that's been around for years. If I want to take that and I want to put that at the bottom of here, put that link in, simple as that. So that's when you can see it. That's pretty much when you've copied something in the last 10 minutes. But at some point today, or yesterday, I guarantee you, I will have copied the URL to tonight's show. MacBites 80, after hours 0082. So let's bring that up. One of the huge benefits of Clipboard Manager is not just the fact, as you can see, I've got 1,000 clippings. 1,000 clippings there that are synchronised to iCloud and synchronising quite happily with all my iOS devices and my other Macs that have copied on them, which you don't realise how useful that is until it's not there, and then you do. But not only does it do all of that, but I need to start typing 0082. Do a search. So click on the search, 0082. And there it is. Here's all the mails and links and stuff like that. Doesn't look like I copied the link. Wow, that's unheard of. What else did I copy? Let's try YouTube and see what I copied. YouTube, there's one. There's one. Right, so there's a link. There's YouTube links here. So if I'd got the right one, it would be there. Okay? Right, so it can do a search. That's the first thing. So if we typed in what we've just copied, there's all the stuff with Elaine in. Everything that I've copied with Elaine in, including signatures. So the search is incredibly powerful because I can bring up that with my shortcut key. I can start typing. I can find the link that I'm looking for and then just press enter to paste it straight in. I don't know how anybody manages without one, but even then it gets better than that. Let's bring it up again. Right, and I'm going to lose the search, so it's showing me all my clipboard history that will go back. So I've got my diagram in there. There's my image. That's something that we're doing that's coming up. And I've got all kinds of other things in here. All these copied today from my presentation. But that's the generic clipboard. It's just extended it to 1,000 items. But if I go up to where it says copied and there is the double-headed arrow, I also have a queue of items and I have created sub-clipboards. So you can actually have multiple clipboards. If I bring that one up, there's one thing in it and that's my signature. And that's incredibly useful because what's in the copied clipboard, when I add another item, the 1,000th item will drop off the end. It only keeps 1,000 items. Now, for some people, that might last them a year. For me, it might last me a week. It depends. So if I'd copied my signature and thought, well, I'll just keep copying it every now and then, how often? How often do I need to do it? I don't know. So it's far easier to have a totally separate clipboard that's accessible from your clipboard manager that you just switch, and there's my signature. So if we move down a bit and put my signature in, there it is. That bit there. So I never have to think, where is that, and go and copy and paste it or whatever. I can just get to it from my clipboard manager. Now, when I said it doesn't matter what clipboard manager you've got, no, it doesn't. But some of them will have more features than others, and that's why you might find yourself going from one to another, or why I've gone through about 20 of them. I want one that's non-intrusive, that's easy to get to. I want multiple clipboards. I want the ability to search. I'd like the ability for it to synchronize. So you need to think about the features that might benefit you, and then from there you can work out which one is right for you. So Jonathan says, why would you store an item in that clipboard versus using text expander of sorts? Well, that's the point, Jonathan. There is an overlap between them depending on if your clipboard extender has that feature. So I would use a text expander for that, but it's there historical. Just a historic reason that was there. There is absolutely no need for it unless you don't want to remember the shortcuts. So you said you can't remember the shortcuts. Now you mean like command and this and control and that. But you're going to reach a point with your text expansion that you'll be thinking, what was that? What did I call it? Was it signature? I try and, when I make them logical, but I don't have to remember anything for that one. All I need to do is just go into the signatures and be done. Sometimes I might be using like one of Mike's signatures and I don't use it very often at all. And I'm looking at my text expander thinking, I've got no idea what I called it. So I might as well have another way to do it just in case. But there is an overlap between these two things, that there absolutely is. So another thing to think about is it something you want in here, or is it something you want in your text expander because of that overlap? But for me, it's just the fact that it's just a different way of doing it, and there is an option. As you can see, I've only got the signatures list. I can manage lists, and I can create multiple lists. So if I want another one, and I wanted that to be my MacBites list, then I could switch to my MacBites. In fact, I think you can even change the colour. There you go. So MacBites would be orange. I can go to my MacBites list and then start saving things in there that would make sense for me to have. I would say I'd put things in here that I use less frequently, that I don't want to have to remember a shortcut for. But that's the only reason. As you can see, other people I've seen with 20 clipboards, far too much for me to manage. I don't really need it. The main thing I need it for is just the main functionality of it. And I do, as you've seen today, just look at all of the stuff that's in here. These are from the presentation. Some of the freebies. I've got other stuff I've copied and pasted in. Those are from a demo I'm doing later. All of this is the work I've done today. But if I need to go back to it, if I'm looking for liquid text on the App Store, I can go back to it. Here's the red dots that I use. There's loads of stuff in there. There is the Too Hot thing that you saw earlier. An audiobook I sent to Mike. Everything's in there. My entire working day in terms of copying is available from there. Now that's one way of doing it. That's buying a separate application to something you may have. And as I'm saying, you may choose to do that in certain circumstances. For me, it was the fact that they synchronized with iOS. But you have other things that you could use, which is Alfred. So in Alfred, I don't open up on the wrong screen. Right. You have a list of features, and it's extensive. To get access to the clipboard history and some of the other bits, you do need the Power Pack. Can you find the price of the Power Pack, Mike? There was a lifetime deal a while back, and that was what I went for, so I haven't had to buy the Power Pack in a while. But if you go to features and you choose...
£25.
£25. Is that for life?
That's for single user. No, £45 for free lifetime upgrades. A mega supporter.
I was a mega supporter, but then there was one above that and I went for that as well. So
I'll
Peter
stick the link
says,
in.
I haven't come across Copied before, but if I found in the App Store and relied on the comments, I would have passed it by. You seem to have a better experience. Oh, wow, is it bad? Is it bad? The thing is, so many of them get bad reviews, and you think, maybe it was a Duff update. You really don't know. It does work for me, it synchronises, but I wouldn't rule out trying something else. And for many, many months, I used Alfred. So Alfred's actually pretty decent. So it's got 3 things to think about with your clipboard history. First of all, there's the history. So this is managing your entire clipboard history. Then you've got options to merge and you've got advanced. So we'll look at the clipboard history. You get to choose how long you keep the clippings. 2.3 out of 5. That's not good. It's never let me down. It doesn't like Catalina. What does? There's another reason not to upgrade. Right, in here, it makes a distinction between plain text copies, image copies, and file list copies. So plain text, I've enabled to keep it for 3 months. You have 4 options: 24 hours, 7 days, 1 month, or 3 months. Images, I'm only letting it keep for a month. And file lists, I'm letting it keep for a month. To be honest, if I had to go back looking for an image from 6 weeks ago, I wouldn't bother. In fact, I don't even think I would think about it. I would have assumed it was long gone. Now, the thing to think about with this is, this differs than copied in a fundamental way. Copied keeps 1,000 items. It doesn't distinguish between plain text, images, or file lists. And how long 1,000 items will remain there will depend on your usage of it. Whereas with Alfred, you've got 3 months. 1 month, or however much you set it to. It's there, and you've got it. So at least it's predictable. Right, to use it, you can set up a viewer hotkey. So in here, you would have a hotkey to set up. So I'm going to use that, and one of those hideous hotkeys, 4 this time, to bring it up. So if I show you that, I use that key, up it pops. Now it's not as clear what any of that is, but it does show you where it came from. So the first 4 are from Pages, and then you've got some from CustomShortcuts, Notion, then Chrome, then Sublime, etc. Now, that doesn't look great, does it? Because you don't know which is which. We've got 3 images, but we don't know which is which. But as soon as you've used the shortcut key to bring it up, you can use the arrow key, and then you get your preview on the right hand side, and it will preview whatever that is. And all of the text that you need is in there, as are the images. So that's the first thing you can do. Use the arrow key to go back through the history. The second thing you can do, you have a flashing insertion point at the top here, which has just disappeared. Let me get that back. There's the flashing insertion point. That means you instantly have an integrated search as well. So if I started typing my name, it will bring up all of the stuff here. Oh, look at it all. It goes back weeks. Right, you've got all of the stuff there. So you have an integrated search, you've got a shortcut key to bring it up, an integrated search, and instant search through the history by going back through here. Awesome. Awesome. Right, you don't need to use that shortcut key if you don't want, so I will take that away. What you can do is use a shortcut. Jonathan didn't know it had search. Oh, Jonathan, I'm tempted to deduct you a point for that. Always try typing. There's a point wavering on that. Right, if you just don't want another shortcut key to remember, but you want to use it, you can use a keyword, an Alfred keyword. So I have an Alfred keyword of show clipboard. And when I press enter, it's one step more. I have to type it and then press enter, but it does exactly the same thing. So it's just a different way of working. Oh, Jonathan, right, that's definitely half a point deducted. Scrolling up and down. They don't make discoverability easy, do they, Jonathan? Let's blame them. Discoverability clearly at fault. Right, you also have the ability in here to clear the keyboard history. You could clear it for just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So if you've been doing some really dodgy searches, you can clear it for a certain amount of time. Right, you can choose to show all at the top of the clipboard history. So, do you know what? I'm going to put that shortcut key back because I'll be going in and out of this, won't I? Right, let's go back into it. Okay. Go on. Show all at the top of the clipboard. I should have an all showing there. There we go. All snippets. View all snippets and collections, etc. So you can hook that in. That will make more sense when we look at the next thing. But it's something that you can turn on in here. And you can show snippets when searching the clipboard history. Right. Basically, you've got all of those options in there. Now, you've got here, ignore data from other Apple devices, which is the universal clipboard that was talked about in the chat earlier. So at this point, it's ignoring that. But if you want that enabled and you want it to hook into it, then just put a tick in the box. Right, the next thing I used to adore, but it's a little bit awkward. Right, it's fast append select text. And the idea is that you go around and you collect text from multiple places and add it to one of those, you used to have a spike. Do you remember the spike in Word?
Yeah, I do.
It's that. It's a spike that enables you to collect multiple items and make a single composite item from them. And as it says there, hold Command and double tap C to append the currently selected clipboard item to the previously copied text in the clipboard history. Would that worked all the time? I found it too sensitive. I found that happening when I didn't want it to happen. But it will play a purr sound. I don't like system sounds at all. So I've just turned it off. But that option is available should you want it. Then you've got your advanced stuff, which is ways of case-insensitive matching of clipboard histories, whether you automatically paste when you press return or not, whether you want to move items to the top of the clipboard history when they're used, the maximum clip size, but you can also choose to ignore certain applications. So I had no problem showing you my clipboard history because it's set to ignore 1Password. Otherwise, all of my passwords would likely be on there if I'd copied them. So we don't want that, do we? So you can actually choose to ignore applications in here. But you don't have to. So if you're confident that you're not sharing your machine or anything, then you could enable it that you can copy it from 1Password and it would stay there. Oh, hello, Stephen. Latest video just completed 100 days in a row. Wow. Too tired to watch live, we'll watch it later. Good evening anyway, Stephen. Congratulations on your 100 days. We passed 100 days on Marooned on Tuesday. On the one hand, it feels like 5 seconds. On the other, it feels like 5 years. So I empathise with you. And we'll say hello to future you as well as you catch up tomorrow. Right, so you can ignore apps or you can re-enable apps. So 1Password's the big one for me. Do I want that there or not? I've elected not. You may decide something different. You can ignore clipboard data marks as concealed, which would be like a password, and also auto-generated. So you've got actually quite a few options in Alfred that you wouldn't think you had. So you might have no need to have an extra clipboard extender. It just depends. It just depends. I've used both of those extensively. I've also used copy and paste. In my day, I think I've used all of them. Not kidding. I've used all of them. I don't think there is one that's perfect. Not by a long way. Right, let's get back to wherever Keynote went. Okay. Right, it's not just a Mac party. If you are on Windows, you are luckier than we are. Because Clipmate. Oh, be still my beating heart. That is the best clipboard extender on the planet. It does everything. It always did do everything. It was fabulous in the mid-90s. And it remains fabulous today. It's amazing. There was one on the Mac that looked similar, but it crashed unholy on me and I never went back to it. There's nothing as good as that on the Mac. If anybody's a developer out there and you would like to create one, go have a look at that. It's perfection. Absolute perfection. I know it's $35, dollars, But if I was using Windows on a daily basis, it would be there that fast, your head would spin. It's perfect. In fact, if just reading the feature list of that is describing what a clipboard extender should actually do and look like. But we're moving on to text expanders. Now, there is an overlap, as Jonathan pointed out. Why would you do it that way? Why wouldn't you do it that way? Some things you can do, and it would be an either-or situation. So a signature. You could have that on a clipboard manager and switch to it and paste it in. Or you could have it in a text expander program. Two ways of looking at this, two specific things that, when I look at it, the way I think of it. Your clipboard extender can't copy a misspelt word and paste in the right one. Might do in the next version, but not now. So your autocorrect is one option you have when you're looking at your text expanders. The other thing is, as you see there, some hieroglyphics, which for me is the section key, which is underneath the escape key of a British keyboard. YTB. And when I type that, magic happens. It's as simple as that. Magic happens. And I have many, many things where magic happens. I use Typinator, but that's not the most popular, even for the Mac. It's a Mac-only application, but it's fabulous. Their support alone is worth it. The alternative, or one of the alternatives, is Text Expander. The reason that I passed Text Expander by 13 years ago was the lack of support. The support was shocking. It may or may not be shocking now. You may have a completely different experience, but my experience was not good. So I took the decision to go with Typinator. What will be of more significance to you right now is that Text Expander is subscription based, so it's an ongoing cost. However, there is a Windows version and it synchronizes, so that may mean more to you than paying the annual fee. You also have another option. You're a Mac user, which is Alfred does this. Alfred does a lot, doesn't he? But the thing is, you could be woefully underusing Alfred, not being aware of what Alfred is capable of, and that it's easy to overlook it, because when a feature is added in as, oh, Alfred's a launcher, it does this and it does it very well, and then a couple of versions later we've added this, you think, yeah, but it's going to be a cut down thing, it's not going to be proper, it's not going to be like an independent separate app. But actually Alfred's pretty decent. Really just pure history that I have never used it fully in this way, because I've used Typinator since forever. But they're the ones I'm going to have a look at. So what's happening over here? Jonathan likes the support. The support is amazing, nothing short of. You cancel Text Expander the same day. One thing to think about as well when you think about these things is data portability. And one thing I'll say is Typinator will import Text Expander expansions. However, it's not quite so handy at exporting from itself to another format. So that might be something, again, you need to think about. But I have Typinator. Typinator looks like that. So I have thousands of them. Some of them are autocorrect things. So there is a collection from Tidbits that's corrections. So I wouldn't know if I was actually spelling any of these things wrong. I got that one years ago. Does it ship with it, Jonathan? Because you've only recently installed it. So does the Tidbits one ship with it or not? Mike, I've got one there that needs approving. Jonathan, that's the other half of the point gone. What am I going to do with you? Right, Peter's using Text Expander, but looking for an alternative. It inexplicably blocks too much software. That's exactly the problem that Jonathan had with it. Now, I must admit, I've never really experienced anything like that, but then I wouldn't have, would I? Because I only used it for a little bit and it was a pain and I stopped using it. Well, weird that it does that. I have never seen Typinator do that. The only thing it doesn't do, and this is by choice, and not their choice, The only thing it doesn't do is take, it doesn't allow you to paste into 1Password. But that's intentional from a security perspective with 1Password. But Jonathan, oh Jonathan, what are we going to do? But you say you moved for exactly the same reason. Oh, I've got all sorts going on here. Right. Jonathan, do you have the tidbits thing or not? Yes, it did come with it. Awesome. Yeah. What version? Because I don't think I've updated that for years. But it's very useful. These are the spelling corrections. So if we look at one of these, I would struggle to misspell them. Right, let's find and see it expand. Achieve with no second E. There we go. Achieve. And as I do that, it gets corrected. So half of this, you wouldn't even notice. It's just happening. It just happens automatically. And when you look at each of these, so let's look at that one, that achieve. We've got the misspelling there. We've got the correction underneath. And down here, you're saying where the whole word and the case affects expansion. Now what that means is it waits until you've typed the whole word before it creates it, which is good news. And the case affects expansion, meaning that if you had a capital A at the beginning, it retains the capital A. If you had a lowercase a, it retains that. That can matter a great deal. Kim mistypes everything and misspells everything. Not with this one, it would automatically correct it for you. So that's the corrections. So you can have corrections in there. You can also make your own corrections if you want. You can see I've got all kinds of things in here. There's regular expressions that correct double caps. Sometimes that just annoys me though, I must admit. I've done a demo before, so here's some of the demos that I did. So we've got some of those. That explains that. I was wondering where that one was coming from. So I created these in a demo. But I've got ones that I use in MacBites. So I've got show numbers and all kinds of stuff. Now, I was going to show you one. I'm going to show you two that I've created that are complicated, because this is fairly basic, isn't it? So Peter's saying 1Password is one of the blocked apps and one where I need it the most. Filling in personal details for software registration details, for example. My workaround for that, because there's no way to fix that, that's 1Password. 1Password won't let you do that. But there is a sort of way around it. It's not pretty, but there is a sort of way around it. Which would be, I would probably open an app. I'd probably make it drafts or something. And I would have this app sat to the side. Like that. And then say I've got 1Password. We're pretending this is 1Password over here. Right, and I now need to put in my email address. So I actually have my email address. There's my email address. Put it in there. I think I've done two things there. Copy it, and then go back to 1Password and paste it, and then come back over here, put the next one in. So if the next one is like, we had a signature, didn't we? A signature for NWAG. We did. There we go. When I was a user group manager. Copy that back to 1Password and paste it. I'll probably do it that way. Another way you could try, but I've not tried it myself, is use the Clipboard Extender method and just double click it. So that might be another reason that you want to try doing it that way rather than using a text expander to do it. But basically what we're looking at here, let's get rid of that. No, because I'm stressing you. Is looking at something more advanced. So one thing that I do every week drives me insane. I have to put in a URL for the newsletter for this week. So it would look something hideous. Let's try putting it in. See if this is the right one. Right, I'm just going to put this in. Don't worry about what it's doing. But basically, there you go. That's what I need to put in. But it's, when you look at it, this bit here, and there's links here as well. There's the links. All of this changes every week. So yes, I can get that huge paragraph put in, but it's not great because I would need to change the file name of the PDF I would need to change the month and I would need to change the year. The rest of it's okay, but that's not good. So I need to put that in. However, you saw something happen. So let's leave that up there. We'll make that a different colour. We'll make that a nice blue colour. Right, so you can see the difference. Let's do it again. So mine, I think, is OP Newsletter, I do believe. Right, Typinator's popped up at the top and it's saying what date's the newsletter. Well, it's not July last year, is it? Right, so it's 2020, it's June, and the newsletter is dated the 28th. I have a newsletter dated that. You'll notice I'm not putting the PDF in. I'm not doing anything else. And I haven't used this since last July because I'm doing it a different way now. So I don't particularly have to have all of that text. But you'll notice I hadn't used it since last July, but it put the right year in and it put the right month in. And now I've changed the date to be Sunday. When I OK that, it should actually take that out as well. Right, if we look in here what we've got now, the file date is totally right. The month is right, the year is right, and everything else is right. I actually now have another one. I can't remember which one that is. When I'm in the zone, I can easily remember that one. Not the newsletter. There we go. I made it shorter. So this is actually the one I use now. Our parishes newsletter. And it comes up and it asks me the date again. Actually, that is the right date. And then I click OK. And what I now get is just that bit. That's all I need. But I'm going to show you the complicated one. Because this one that I'm using now, it's not that clever. Although it is picking the right year and the right month. So let's go into Typinator and see how to do that. All right. That's the other one, the old one that I was using. Let's put it to one side and let's put this to one side and do a comparison. The bits we're interested in, we'll put in red. So we are interested in the year and the month, and the year and the month down here. So there's another year that needs to be right, another month that needs to be right, and finally the date that needs to be right. There we go. All those things need to be right. So we're looking at the whole of that one there. And that comes from in here. And how it does it, if we look at it, starts off IMG screen, our parishes, hideous long file name, uploads. Let's stop there, because uploads is where we're looking for the year. And instead of putting 2020 in, I've used a variable, which is YYYY, which is the year in full. Next to that, I have the month, which is the month as 2 digits. I've done exactly the same down here. There's the year, there's the month. But this time, this bit here, instead of it being a variable that the computer can work out by itself, it has to stop and ask me. And it's asking me what date is this newsletter. So I tell it the date, which I said was 2020-06-28. And at the point it puts this together, it replaces those variables with either things it can work out for itself, the year and the month, or the year and the month and what it asked me. That's one of the more advanced ones. That's an input one. There are other things that I do for MacBites. So I'm thinking now, when do I use that one? That would be an after hours, but not for Notion. No. That one would work. Right, so what I'm going to do is show you last week's show. So I'm going into Notion. This may or may not be a good idea. It may stress the machine out greatly, but we'll have a think. Go on, go on. Right, oh, that's this week's show. Tell you what, we'll go for the week before, purely because it's in the sidebar. Right, this is after hours for the week before. So what happens after the show? Oh, that was a long show. 4 hours 18. Right, let's keep going. There we go. There's my YouTube block. So that's one thing that I paste in. for instance, if I take that, which is when you watch a YouTube video, I have a YouTube video here, it has a reference number. That is the reference number of a YouTube video. We'll use that one actually. So I copied that reference. And then what I do, we'll put one over here so you can see it. We'll put a code block in. And what I want in there is my YouTube block. So first of all, I'll make that HTML so it displays in pretty colours. But you see all this text? I don't want to be typing that out. So what I do in there is put in YTB, YouTube block, and it asks for two things. So there's one video, and this is my YouTube channel trailer. It's finally done, thank God. So I'm giving it two pieces of information. The code reference for the video and the title of it. And then I click OK, and it does the rest. And then all I need to do is copy that to the clipboard. So that's another thing that I use it for. I'm going to get rid of that or I'll wonder why it was there. Right, now then we've got the YouTube timings. So once the show is over, Mike whips through it and makes that a listing like that. And then I would take that by copying that to the clipboard. And then I need to work magic with it to get it on YouTube. So what that looks like, go all the way back up here. There is a show URL, which hopefully will take us out to YouTube. It'll get very upset with that. Right, and there's the video for that show. And apparently I'm live now. Who knew? Right, so what I do in here is, as I'm scrolling down, you get the opportunity to put some text underneath it. And there, recognise that text? Oh, yes. But you'll see here that you've got not only the actual text I've copied, that's on my clipboard right now, but you've got a live episode of the MacBites podcast, subscribe and never miss a show, clickable content index below. So basically there's a lot of other stuff that I would like to type in as well, preferably with little or no effort. So let's go over here. Oh, where's my mouse pointer? Right. So go down here. Show you in Typinator that we have AHYT, After Hours YouTube block, basically, is what that means. So I put that in, After Hours YouTube, and it takes what was on my clipboard, which was that, and it wraps all of this around it, and then I can just go paste it in. And what that looks like is all of the text before, all of the text below, and whatever is on my clipboard. So obviously it wouldn't work if what was on my clipboard wasn't what I needed on my clipboard, but if it is, it's as simple as that. So these are the more advanced things that you can actually do with it. Who's using it for this kind of stuff at the moment? Paul's still trying to work out how to save PDF to Devon thing. I'll show you that in another show. There you go. Mike, make a note. Right. Who's using it for prompts like that? Because I mean you can get incredibly complicated with this. Some of the ones I've had have been really long. You'll also notice that I've got signatures in here and exactly the same signature is in there. That's marooned. There is an overlap. Yes, Deborah uses it that way. You'd really like a big paperless focused show. Oh, you better put that down as well then, Mike. So there is overlap between these two things, but what's interesting to me is you'll just find the natural fit for whatever job you're working with. I like that way that I can wrap things around stuff. I've made entire emails like this. So we're talking thousands of lines. So Paul says, so clip is a field. Clip is actually anything that's on your clipboard. So whatever is on your clipboard, it does it that way. It takes the clipboard and it puts it in. So it replaces the brackets and the word clip with what's on your clipboard. So that's the way to go if it's one item you've got and you've copied it. You don't want to type it in. You've actually copied it. If it's more than one item, including if it's what's on the clipboard, then you would use the clip option for what's on the clipboard, and you would use the variable option for what's not on the clipboard. But yeah, it's sort of a field, it's a dynamic field of what's on the clipboard. And you just insert clip, and then it takes what's on the clipboard. So text expander shortcut command / and search for the shortcut saves so much time. Yep, you've got a whole way to go here with this. I turned it all off, but you can do that because I don't do that. Is it quick search? Oh, who knew? Is it back on again? I certainly didn't do that. Was it that one? Maybe not. Let's have a look. Let's bring it back. Preferences, preferences. That definitely says short. I think I've got something else on that. Do you know what? Let's use one of my notorious difficult keyboard shortcuts. Right, let's see if that one works. I am not seeing that. I am reckoning it's behind something. Maybe not. But it's basically an Alfred thing. I just don't use it. But there is one if you want it. I thought it was that one. Quick search. It's not show a window, is it? Pause, suggest, select. Nope. Maybe it's just not liking the keyboard shortcut. Let's get rid of that. I will try one more and see if it works. In fact, no, I can't get rid of that one. It's not liking that. Right, and we've gone. I've seen it. It brings up basically Alfred at the top of the screen. Maybe Jonathan could try that while I carry on and tell me if that works. It should bring up a shortcut. Let's try that for Typinator and see if it does. Right, let's try one more time. It has, and it's brought it up on the wrong screen. Oh no. Will you go onto the other screen? There we go. There we go. Right, it brings that up and then you type it in. So if it's a signature, then it shows you all of your different signatures, or even like, if I could go for that one and put that one in. So yeah, it does work. It just opens it up on the wrong screen, which is so unhelpful. Then I have to center it. You might be able to, I will talk to support about that. I would like it on the screen that I'm actually working on, but yes, you can do that. I just turned it off. Oh, so Neil uses it for a number of standard response emails to parents. The fields allow me to fill in the parents' name and children. Exactly. Jonathan, you must use one at least 30 times a day, naming files and folders, actions, agendas, meetings. Yeah, I use it for file naming. I had some hideous ones for file naming, but I used to do it when I produced 6 videos in a chunk, and I just went through and renamed them. It was fantastic. Right, so that's the one I use, but that does not mean that that is necessarily the one that you would use, because, as we've seen, Alfred. We saw a couple of things on Alfred in the Clipboard Manager. So when we went into Advanced, there was 2... Nope, they weren't in Advanced. They were... Where on earth were they? There we go. Or is it? No, yeah. So these 2 options here talked about snippets. So one option was having that, the snippets, appear at the top. All snippets. Obviously don't have much in the way of snippets. But what it's talking about in here, when it says snippets, is this second feature, straight underneath it, which is Alfred's interpretation of Clipboard Expander. It's called snippets. And in here you can get collections, so you can go and actually find collections from Alfred. So it's opening up in another page. There are none in here at the moment, but there is some ASCII art ones. So we've got like the happy owl. So we could put owl and that would expand. I think that is enabled by default. Or do we need that on? There we go. Right. So if I come down here and I do owl, that's coming from Alfred. Now I don't suggest particularly that you put different ones in different apps. You might want to take some of these and put them in the one you're using, or bin the one you're using and come into here. But be careful if you start using multiple ones. Obviously if you can get collections, and there are some in here, so I will bring this on. Browsers, so slow. Come on, where have you gone now? The browser's actually disappeared. Right, here you go. That's what you get when you go in and download the free options. So you've got symbols, quotes, the ASCII art, you've got currency symbols, dynamic examples, so you can do arithmetic in them, or do exchanges of words like you've just seen, and you've got emojis as well. So you can download all of those. Let's download to import the snippets. Yes, and now I've got all of the Mac symbols. Oh, whoa, that would be incredibly useful, actually. I'm looking at that and thinking, yes. Just imagine being able to put these in without having to go and copy and paste them and find them and stuff. That's actually incredibly cool. Now, you can export these, but I don't know what format they would be in. They could be Alfred only. Let's have a look. Let's stick it on the desktop and see what format it's in. It's an Alfred snippets file. So great for backing up, although having said that, this would be backed up because Alfred is already synchronizing using Dropbox. You can make your own collections, export collections, share collections. So let's do one of those. Let's do... how about eject? It was two of those and eject, wasn't it? Now I might need to do something in here in terms of putting one of these in. So let's do that. And there's the eject symbol. Now you will be, depending on which one you're using, you should find there are many of these collections flying around. So there'll be other locations you can get them for Alfred, and Text Expander and Typinator. So there you go. Let me get my, that's the wrong one. Did have my chat open and I could see it and I could see you chatting, and now it's totally disappeared. Oh no, there you are. There you're back. Putting up on here because the other machine's not working at all. Right. I'll respond in X number of days. So you're getting ideas, Neil. That's fantastic. So Peter used to use in FileMaker development, Text Expander as a library of FileMaker functions. Yeah, you could do a collection of Excel functions that actually show you what the variables are. Maybe somebody's done that. Who knows? Who knows? Right, so that's your Clipboard, your Text Expander. There is a huge overlap. There is. So sit down and think it through. Don't just sit down and start doing it, because you will eventually come back and think, I don't know what I was thinking, and you'll not be able to find anything. So even though I use those symbols all the time, I've not actually taken the time to set those up yet. But now I've seen them, that's a very good idea, and I will probably set that up to do it. Another thing to think about from a practical perspective is, if you are using two different ones, use a different key at the beginning to expand it. So you've seen very many of mine are the section key. Just because it was easy to get to, I could do it blindfolded, and it wasn't used for anything else. However, section key on an American keyboard is not easy to get to. Other issue I've got with it is if I decide to do something like that and they ever bring out an iOS version, section key is an absolute pain to get to on iOS. So a key that's easier to get to would be a good idea, but don't start being clever thinking, oh, I'll put CMD, because there may be a word like alt or end and you decide to auto-correct end rather than expand end. Now you might say, no, I'm expanding it. I'm expanding end to a paragraph at the end of my email. Yeah, but it can't distinguish when you type the word end, hence putting some kind of key in front of it that limits the expansion to when you intend it to happen, and only when you intend it to happen. Right, okay, let's move on from that. We won't save all of that, but we will put applications down before things go absolutely crazy. Right, so no, we want to delete that. Go away. Okay. How long's your piece on Power BI?
I can make it as long or short as you want.
Oh, isn't he clever? Isn't he clever?
How long do you want me to make?
No, because I don't know how long this is yet.
Well, tell me when it's time for my piece.
Well, actually, I don't mind if it's 5 in the morning. Everyone else can watch on catch up and Jonathan can snooze nicely. But I fear that would be deemed cheating, Mike. Right, this is something that I was considering why Apple hate Keynote so much. We've talked about interactive adventures before in Keynote, so you might think that's a bit harsh. By interactive adventure, I mean you are in your presentation and there is a pathway through it. Now, I'm not just talking Keynote or PowerPoint, I'm talking both. But for this to make any sense in terms of what I actually mean, I need to show you what PowerPoint can do out of the box. And it has a fantastic feature called Zoom. Now, I know what you're thinking. Web conferences. Or zooming in. No, neither of those. It's the most stupidly named feature, isn't it, Mike?
It certainly is.
Zoom is a ludicrous name for it, but I will show you what it actually does. Right. Or you could snooze and wake up in time for the end. Yeah, very true, very true. You don't want to miss the end. Oh, good stuff at the end. Right, I am now attempting to close these things and go and find my data. So what I've done is I've made a presentation and I'm going to actually take you through the entire presentation. Don't panic, there's only 20 slides. When I can find it at all. So here we go, demo files. We're at demo files. We are at PowerPoint Zoom. Let's open up that. It's on the wrong screen, but I think that's fine. I think that's fine if we just present it from there. As long as it appears on the right screen. Awesome sauce. Right, this is the feature called PowerPoint Zoom. Do you know what's fantastic with this, Mike?
What's
fantastic? It has the intellect to put my speaker's notes over there, which isn't particularly where I choose to have them, but I can see the chat. Right, what you have here is you have the ability to choose your own adventure. Like I say, pick your own adventure. So for kids, it's fantastic. So Deborah says she's used it at school. Is Zoom in the Mac or PC version of PowerPoint? It's in both, Kim. It's a little bit more advanced in the PC version, but I made this in the Mac version. So everything you see here will work PC and Mac. So what you do is, I'm just going to take you through it. You can see what we've got there. I would like to see, I love the meerkats. So I'm going to hover over meerkats. And when I click meerkat, he comes to the front. And then I click through. I have no idea why that's blue. That should not be blue. That should have a meerkat on it. I have no idea why that's blue. It's not blue. It's not. I'll show you that when we go into design view. But there's the meerkats. And as I click on the last meerkat image, it comes out. And then I go to the tigers. So it's fantastic for kids. They get to choose which way they go through the slides. And then they go out again. Pandas, totally my favourite. Oh, they're so adorable. Look at them. Absolutely. Now you're thinking that's not a panda. Trust me, that's a panda. That is a red panda. They're about twice the size of a domestic cat and they are adorable. And there's another panda. Oh, I love pandas. So basically it's navigation. You decide where you go, and when you get to the last slide within that group, it takes you back to the beginning. Now, for this to have full meaning for you, I'm going to attempt to switch these. No, I don't want to do that. So let's go back there. Can I do it here? I don't want subtitles, no! No, I definitely don't want subtitles. I think I'm going to have to come out of this to do it. Or can I? Oh, hang on. Hang on. Woohoo! Right. What you're looking at now, you're looking at the presenter view. So this is what I'm getting when I'm looking at the presenter view. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, but you should be able to work that out with what you see there. So I'm going to click on Panther, and you can see what happens in there. It goes to the slide, it shows you the slide here. It shows you the next slide on the right hand side, and across the bottom in the thumbnail track, it's actually sliding along. I'm putting that on the wrong screen. It's sliding along here and trying to keep up as you're moving, basically. So if we go to the next one, You can see it moving along to the third one. Not all panthers are black, some are pink. That'll be me after today's show. It's so warm. Right. But when I click, it goes back to the navigation, and you can see the thumbnail track at the bottom scoot across. And then I'll choose to go to lions. So I'm on my other screen navigating. Next lion, last lion. When I click, goes back to navigation. So that is PowerPoint Zoom. What's Jonathan laughing at? What's he laughing at? Right, so that's what you've got. Oh, that'll be the subtitles. They're fantastic, but I don't need them right now. Right, so let's switch.
Either that or
over.
the Pink Panther.
It could have been the Pink Panther. Right, so that's what we've got. Now, I'm going to show you in PowerPoint, starting from scratch, how that actually works. So I'm starting completely from scratch here. But I will show you behind the scenes of the other presentation. I just don't want you to see it kind of basically finished. It wouldn't make much sense. So what I'm going to do here, I've got some graphics that I can just stick in. But actually, I built this. All those slides, nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me at all. When you're... It was the subtitles. Oh, yes. Oh, talk about press the wrong button. I design in PowerPoint. I never present in PowerPoint. So don't change the buttons on me. Don't move anything. Right, so I started in here. I wanted the layout to be blank. I literally started from a blank slide. You have the option in here then to start putting stuff on the slides. So with a blank slide, I went to Insert and I chose Pictures and I chose Online Pictures. Now, this way madness lies, and it can be very dicey. It's searching Bing. Ooh. Look at that. Dogs, that's a Samoyed. That is definitely a Samoyed. Where did it go? That was a Samoyed. But you can in here search. So if I put Samoyed, there we go. Look at their little faces. Oh, I could be lost for hours. I mustn't do it. Oh, Sammies don't have blue eyes. That's a cross. But we'll just randomly pick, a baby image, and stick that in. So you can get these images, and if you look at the bottom, it says authors unknown, but it's licensed under Creative Commons. So I am able to actually use it. Now I would take that and put that bit under there and then start stretching this up somehow. Right, just have him there like that. And that's all I did with the images. Okay. What you've then got, this is your online pictures tab where you can choose all these photos. And you also have design ideas. So it will give you a whole range of design ideas for the slides. It says powered by Office Intelligence Services. I thought originally, never use that. And then actually it's not bad. I will show you why it's not bad. But all you need to do is then go through the slides. So let's just create some empty slides. Because to make this work, what you need to do is have sections. It'd be interesting showing you this in Keynote. Right, you need some sections. So in here, you can actually add a section. And it creates an untitled section that I could call Section 1. Or I could call it Samoyeds, it doesn't matter. And then that will fold up everything that's in there. So you can see you've got the default with one slide in. And then because I was on slide 2, it's put the rest of them in that section. But if I go to 4 and say Insert Section, it splits it there. And then I can put other dogs. And I can move these around between the sections then. So the normal slides can just go in between the sections. Another way to work with sections is to change the view. So if you go to View and you go to Slide Sorter View, your sections are shown across the screen horizontally. So here's the other dogs. We can put some more slides in there. I'll put another slide in there. And you see it goes into that individual group. And if you need another group, then you can add groups as and when you need them. And you can fold them up. Oh, that Keynote had that. Keynote has half of that, but not the good half. Okay, so that is how you put the sections together. All right, let's go back to home. So we're all looking at the same thing. And then you go to Insert, down to Zoom, and you have summary zoom as an option. That's because you've got sections. Now, I'm going to do something before I do the summary zoom. Purely cosmetic, don't really need to do it. I just want to point out to you what it's actually going to do. So I'm going to take this picture of the Sammy, cut that and put it on there, because that's the Samoid section. Why have you put that back? Okay, well, it's my way, if you don't mind. Awesome. Right, so the navigation's going on that first one, but when you get to this slide, wouldn't it be good if it actually looked pretty? So if we go back to our online pictures and we pick that one, and oh, that's so cute. Oh, they're all cute. Oh, I mustn't. No, I'm going to pick 4. There we go. Insert 4 pictures. Yeah, not the best slide you've ever seen, is it? Because they're just all over the place. They're all glued together. Oh dear, dear. But that's when these design ideas do come into their own. Look at them. I mean, you've got the basic one where you just put 4 slides. You've got the turn them into Polaroids. You've got the make a big one behind. Put them in little circles. But actually, that first one's pretty good. If you think about it, it's actually managed to focus in on the dog on all of them. Obviously, we've got a little bit of this one here missing off the top, but that's just purely the size of it. So that's actually pretty good. And then I'd probably want to put some text on it. So literally put a text box on it. And let's put Samoids. She's frisky tonight, isn't she, Mike?
Yeah, she's been out twice.
She's hot and she's bothered. I know exactly how she feels.
And she heard you say dog.
She probably would be say Samoid. Told you it's that selective deafness, isn't it? Let's get that a little bit bigger. Come on. Can we fit 40 in? Underneath the nose. There we go. Right, I'm doing that because this is the first slide that's in here. She definitely wants to go out, Mike. You're going to have to give in. Just think of the steps you're getting. Sarcasm. Right, so this is going to be the slide that you first see when you go into this section, so it would make sense to have that. So we've used the design capabilities. Who thought that day would ever come? But what we need to do is insert and go to zoom and put in a summary zoom. Now, what it's going to do with this, select the beginning slide of each section. Now, I already have sections in there. So slide 2 is the beginning and slide 5 is the beginning, and actually it's spot on right. So what it's done is it's allowed me to automate that production by putting in the sections first. But if I want to add any extra ones in, I can, even though they're not in a section. But we've got 2 and 5, that'll do fine. So we'll put them in. And then what we get is the summary slide section at the top here. So that was where I put pick your own adventure. And we had 2 slides. Now you might be thinking this one's cool. This one not so cool. That's because there's nothing on it. So let's put dogs in. Oh, he looks grumpy. But he looks majestic. Right, let's pick that one. And oh, too cute. Too cute. Oh, I love them all. I can never choose. We'll have him and oh, dancing couple. Right, so 4 pictures again, just put on there. Not organised well at all, but we can get some kind of layouts going up here. So that one looks pretty cool, apart from the fact we can't see the dogs' heads. But never mind, we'll work on that later. We will work on that. That says that's done it. There we go. Possibly we can go in here and edit that, I would have expected. But I'm no expert in PowerPoint, so we'll pretend that the head's on it. Thing is, when we go back to the Pick Your Own Adventure slide, it's updated with that slide. So let's try it. Let's lose this one. Didn't need that. Inserted it by itself. We can even lose the section. So remove the section. And we're now ready to go. So let's get that going. This has a mind of its own as well. Sometimes it's function F5, sometimes it's F5, and sometimes you actually have to press the button. Right, there's the slide. So I click on the first one. It brings that up just like it did the others, and then I click, there's a couple of blank slides, we get taken back. The wonderful thing is in here what you can do with it beyond that. So I'm going to leave this one because there's no point me sitting here for another hour just making slides and stuff. Let's leave that and bring on the other one. Go zoom navigation and show you the finished thing. Right, so we have sections. I didn't bother naming them, but if we go into view and we go into the slide sorter, you can see them all laid out neatly. You'll see there's none with big blue, just a blue background on. Just saying, it was having a moment. But I could name these if I wanted to. So if I did want to put Panda or section 1 or whatever, I could do that. Very simple to do. Right, but we will go back to normal view and we will play it. So slideshow, play from start. And as you've seen, we click on tigers, we go to tigers, and we see all of the tigers. And then we go back. But it gets even better than that. What's happening is it's zooming that up to the front. Nielsen says, cute dogs. You're very welcome. Love all dogs, me. All dogs. Right, but it doesn't make sense with these images, but with your images it might do. Just think about it. I'm going to tilt the pandas round. We'll tilt the panda round. He's lying down, so we'll put it that way. And I can move these as well, so nothing to stop me moving them around. So let's say with the panther, we decide to have him sitting halfway like that. We can do all kinds of amazing things here, just moving them around. I wonder what happened if I did that. No, don't do things you've not tried. Right, so I've just rearranged them basically. Right, it will show just as I've designed it. And this time when we click on penguins, exactly the same thing happens. But if we click on pandas, it actually flips it round and it even shows you there's something else over there. It goes through the slides in exactly the same way, although you can still see the panthers. And if you do the panthers, it'll flip round that way. Hello, Debbie. Good to have you with us. I thought we had all the Debs in. We were missing one. We must have acquired another because we definitely had 3. Right. And then it goes through your panthers. And there they all are. No blue thing. Right. That's what you can do in PowerPoint. Guess what? Keynote, no concept of it whatsoever. No concept. So, as good as that is, you've got a problem in Keynote. So, let's have it in the chat. How many of you use PowerPoint? How many use Keynote? Would you like to be able to do that in Keynote? And would that Apple gave you the choice? Right, first thing you can do with a view to getting that into Keynote is if you've got a presentation in PowerPoint, you could export it. But if it has no concept of the zoom navigation system, it's not going to work. But we'll give it a go. So I will take that down there, we'll take that down there, and we'll go into PowerPoint. So I have exactly the same presentation. I have another copy of it, one that I did earlier. It's exactly the same. The only reason that I did it earlier was to make sure that it did actually work. Right, we see we've got 2 for Keynote. You'd like it working in Keynote, wouldn't you? Well, I have here the one that we've just opened, which is this one. And I have that one, which I will open with Keynote. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever whether it comes from PowerPoint or whether it's created from scratch. So Deborah uses PowerPoint if I need Zoom, but I like to be able to do it in Keynote when my files go to Mac users. Aha! Right, well, what happens when you open up the PowerPoint file in Keynote? You lose all the sections, so we have no sections, it's just a list. The only thing you have are these blue arrows, and they are navigation. But basically all we've done, I could have got this far myself just by dragging in the pictures and putting them on the slides. So basically I'm saying to you, although I've opened up the PowerPoint file, the only thing that has come from PowerPoint are these links, and they can be done by hand. So this is purely for speed, but what I am going to do is I'm going to save. I'm trying to put it down there. Now default folders having a moment. There it is. Right, I will put it in there. And it's now a Keynote file. You can tell that from the icon at the top. Up there. Okay, well first off, let's play it. What happens with that navigation? Well, as you hover, you do have navigation. And it will take you through the pandas. So this is looking good. Until it takes you straight to the tigers. So what it's not doing is navigating you backwards. There's no concept of zoom in here at all. But let's not worry about it. I'm going to show you in here that the link that it's put on here is literally just a link. So if I go into there, you have the ability to add a link. And that's all it's done. I'm sure Jonathan's still awake. I'm confident Jonathan is still awake. Because he's still recovering from the subtitles turning on. Oh, PowerPoint would be the death of me. Right, so the only thing it's done is add a link. So if I had any item like that text, and I went to insert, no, it's not on link. Where are you? I know you're in there. If I add a link to go to a slide, and then you just choose a slide. So add a link to a slide. Not the next slide. I would like it to go to penguins, which is 10. You just choose the number of the slide, and that's it. So if I play that, and now click on there, it takes us to penguins. It's that simple to put a link in, but that does not help us. So actually, we don't want that link at all. Link's gone. What we need to do is start to build up what we've got in PowerPoint. Now, obviously there are some limitations on this. The first thing to think about is if you update the index slide, which is this one and this one and this one, in Keynote, in PowerPoint, it updates the index up here. There's no way Keynote can do that. But what you could do to create this index, so I'm going to do the index by hand. Right, I'm going to lose those. What I'm going to do is, this would be where you're at. You can't do that automatically. But what you can do is this. You can export as images. You can choose any type of file format, but we'll go for JPEG high quality purely for speed. And we will take all of them out, but we only need certain ones. We only need 3, 7, 11, etc. But we'll put these in there, same place, and what you get when it's finished doing it, machine is going to melt, is every slide as an image the size that the slide actually was. So it's having a rare old think about it. And it's not there. Has it put it on the desktop? Oh, it's not. Come on. It's suffering today with the heat, aren't we all? Let's start again. Images. Where do you want to put it? Oh, you're not. They're actually there. And yet, in here, they're not there. Okay, this would have been a good time to explain what happened to me the other day.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, that isn't even the desktop though, Mike. I've deliberately steered away from the desktop. They're there, but I can't see them. This is not funny. I think my hard drive's dying, Mike. I think that's what the problem is, but they're coming through right now. I mean, there's no way it should take that long. Can you pour me some water, please? Might have to pour it over the computer. Eventually, all the slides will appear, maybe in my lifetime. Here we go. Right, so I need to pick the ones that are the index slides. I'm going to have to shut something down here. What have I got?
It is 3 years, isn't it?
It is 3 years, and it was out of Apple Care a week ago. So clearly, it knows exactly what it's doing. But this is causing major, major grief.
Remember my Toshiba laptop?
I do remember your Toshiba laptop. I didn't particularly want to quit Keynote, but PowerPoint, but I think I'm going to have to. Would that it would actually close down. Oh, I'm going to have to close everything here, apart from me talking to you guys.
Well, I'll talk about my Toshiba laptop whilst you're doing that.
Whoa. I can't see the chat if I do that, but well, keep me informed about the chat, Mike, because this is not well.
Right.
I'm going to discard the changes. Never mind. Right, that should have freed things up a little bit, but clearly my machine can't cope in the heat. Right, so I've got the images. They're still not feeling too healthy, though. Do I need to show you how to bring an image in? I don't want slide 2, or do I want slide... No, I don't. I want slide 3. Oh, please don't take 20 minutes to do that. Please, please, please. Right, if we could all have a moment's silent contemplation and send some positive vibes to my poor machine. Right, let's try and drag an image on. Go on, you know you want to. You know you want to. Right, an image. That is a photo of the slide. It is a JPEG of the slide. So what I would suggest that you do is export all the slides and then bring in the ones that are the first slide of the section. I'm not going to do them all because you can see it's poorly, but I will show you. Drag and drop the image in, position it as you would require it, right click on it, add a link and choose to go to a slide. And the slide you want to go to with that one is slide 3. The good news is, because that's usually a question, if I add extra slides, will it update? Yes, it will. So once you've done this navigation, it will work. And then rinse and repeat for the others, but obviously I'm not going to do that. But basically you would end up with exactly that. You would end up with exactly the same, only a better quality. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. So that's what you've got. The next thing I would do, purely for my own sanity, is to choose the images of the pandas and indent them. And that gives you what looks like a section. This is an optional step. Not really necessary because it's not going to do anything. But you can actually do that. And that will allow you to fold them up should that be important when you've got 300 slides. The biggest presentation I ever did had 600 and odd in, and I had them separated out by month and year. It was a showcase presentation. It wasn't one anybody had to sit through. Right, so they look like sections, but there's nothing special about them. They don't behave like sections. So far so good. But everything we've done, even though we put the links in, isn't going to give us what we had before. It's not going to give us what PowerPoint could do, where it all shines up to the top. It's all fabulous. No, they don't do that. But you can fake it. So let's play it and look at the meerkats. So why has that gone to the pandas? Crying out loud. Why hasn't the meerkats? Yeah, go to 18. Go to the meerkats. Oh, I don't know what's the matter with this. Why do you keep going to the panda? That is absolute. I can only assume my machine's going absolutely crazy. Last slide viewed. Go to 18. Go to slides. I'm right. It's having a moment. Let's give it another go. Meerkats. No, it's just whipping through. This should not be happening. I do not know why it is happening. All I can suggest that I do is... Let's stick it... Oh, purely because this is on here. Need to make a video of this, clearly, don't I, when the machine's in a better frame of mind. But I just want you to see that it does actually work. So add a link, go to a slide, go to slide 18... which is the meerkats. If it works on that, there's no reason that it's not working. Apart from the fact it's not working. So, that is working. Right, I do not know why it is not working on that image. Let's try again. You've seen that it says exactly the same thing. Words fail me. This was working before. Right, but we know it works because we've put it up there. So we're okay to carry on with that. Because the trick of this, when we can get it going to the right place, and I do not know why it's not going to the right place, is to get back. So from wherever you are, you need to get back to the beginning. That's the trick. Which isn't working too well at the moment, is it? But we know we can get to the meerkats from the text. So when we get to the meerkats, we want it to go on and on and on to the last one. But when we get here, we want this to navigate back to the beginning. Go right back up to there. And that you can actually do. I'm confident that you can do that. Right, there is an image on there. We should be able to just add a link. Put a slide, link, go to slide 1. And it's taking us back there. And the same with each of the others. So fold that one up, go to the lions, the last lion, choose the picture, add link, go to slide 1. And it's taking us back. And the same with all of the others. Now it can get much more complicated than this, so let's keep it simple at the moment with add a link and get back to slide 1. And hopefully we can do all of those. So we've done the pandas, did we do the tiger? Let's do tiger, add a link, slide, go to slide 1. So basically each one takes you back to the navigation when it's finished. So we've done those. Penguin, that is such a cute picture. Add a link, go to slide 1. And I do think we did all of the others. Tell me we did all of the others. We definitely did the lions. Don't recall doing the panther. I would have remembered the panther. Right. And go to slide 1. Okay. Right, let's try that. Love it when a demo doesn't work. Right, I'm using the top to get to the meerkats. Through the meerkats. Last meerkat. Back to the top. Obviously there is something missing. And that is there's no transition between them that looks nice. So what you could do, we'll use the panther as one. Right, on here, and the transition, we will add an effect to it. So what would we like? You can preview them. Do we want it to dissolve? Not really. There is one, I think, that kind of falls forward. So basically go through these. The doorway's quite nice. It splits and shows you that one. There's a cube, which will rotate it. That's got really nice easing on it. I think we'll keep the cube. Cubes looks good. Right, so we go up here. No, actually that's not good, is it? Because we'd need to get from him to the panthers. I will have to do it this way because it's just misbehaving, which is I'm just put a manual link at the bottom. I will work out this week why this is not working properly. You know when everything works in rehearsals? That. Right, let's just put a link to a slide. The panthers are 14. And then we should be able to come back from the pink panther with a nice transition on him. Okay. Away we go. So go to panthers. Panther, panther, panther. And it takes you back there. So you do have to do it manually, but in a way that gives you a bit of control. If you wanted to fiddle around, you could probably get the navigation to kind of pop up at you as well. But that was what I wanted to show you. That that should have worked better than it actually did, but I've no idea what's wrong with it because these links are correct. Each and every link is correct. They're just not working. I'm wondering if they're grouped. I will ponder that in the week, and I will make sure that next week you have a finished version in Keynote that absolutely works. I can't see the chat at the moment, but I will be in a moment, because I think I'm handing over to you, aren't I?
We're talking about my Tosh.
Your Toshiba.
Toshiba, and the fact that the PC World at Old Trafford is obviously a cousin of PC World of Apple's store at Team Trafford.
Team Trafford, yes. They were useless, weren't they?
If your machine's going to melt, I can leave Power BI till next week.
No, my machine is, well, it's just misbehaving, isn't it? I will broadcast you and then we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay. I will show you a working copy of that next week, but in the meanwhile, we have freebies. I thought this week I'd concentrate on sounds, which we've done before, but this time, free sound effects. So if you've ever heard a MacBites, you'll hear the series talking to each other and there'll be footsteps and all kinds of things. Some of that is called Foley, and it's basically sound effects. And the BBC has an entire library. There's millions of things in there. And you can do a search for them by category, or you can search for an actual noise. So if you wanted a rocket taking off in 1946, try putting it in there. Seriously, they've got them by date, the lot. So Mike will put the links in for that. That is the BBC sound effects. It says beta, but it apparently has been in beta for years, and it works really well. The other one that will give you sound effects, and they also have free music if you want. You can see the tabs there on the left, but I've gone for the sound effects. And this is YouTube. So if you're putting a YouTube video together and you want some sound effects, then you can get sound effects there, like afternoon storm long. I'd be quite happy with an afternoon storm that was long.
So would we all.
Oh yes. There's also things like high-pitched drills and things, not quite so appealing. But there's a link for that as well, and they are all completely free for your projects. Which is good news, isn't it? Right, I'm going to hand over to you while I try and calm this machine down. I'll put the fan on it while you're doing
Good
yours.
idea.
I think it is a good idea. I had a problem in the week that didn't make it to the week at MacBites headquarters while I tried to sort it out. It's a huge problem, so I will explain that as we go next time. But for the moment, let's head across to Mike.
You asked me how long.
Just get going with
Shall I
it.
get
You
going?
know what we've got to do afterwards, so
Yeah.
you make your mind up. Right.
And if we're here till 5 in the morning and
Then Johnny will be asleep.
Johnny's in.
Can I just say the record
Zeddy
for a show is 4 hours 18 minutes, just saying. Right, so I'm going to hand over to Power BI. You're
you.
live.
Thank you. Okay, I had a couple of questions come in during the week regarding what I did last week, which was an introduction to Power BI. One of the questions was really just to do with... Sorry?
Nothing, never said a word.
Oh. One...
Getting up the chat on here.
Oh.
Nothing's working, so that was me.
I thought you were heckling me.
No.
Right. Yeah, one of the questions was about the licenses. So I was just asked to go over that again, so I will. And I'll also do a quick recap of what I did last week. So Power BI is a service from Microsoft which is used to create visual reports and dashboards. In order to be able to use Power BI, you need to create an account, and you create the account at powerbi.microsoft.com. So you go to powerbi.microsoft.com and you need to sign up for an account. Now, here's just a screenshot of an example of a visual report. So when somebody says, what do you mean by visual report? What do you mean by dashboard? What's it look like? Here's a typical example. But in terms of the accounts, which was the question I was asked about, there's two levels of account. If you go for a free account, then you can create reports, you can view your own reports, but what you can't do is you can't share your reports with others. So yes, you can create reports, but half the thing about Power BI is being able to share reports with others. But also, you can't view reports that other people have shared with you. You can view reports that have been shared with you. In order to sign up for an account, said powerbi.microsoft deemed to be a work email address. They actually call it a work or school email address. So I think you'd be all right, Neil. But basically, they define that as an email address associated with a Microsoft business or a Microsoft enterprise account. So basically, it doesn't support your personal email accounts, things like Hotmail, Gmail, Outlook.com, .me, etc., etc. Now, there is a workaround for that, because if you don't have a work email address, but you want to maybe test out Power BI, or maybe you're a self-employed consultant and you want to sign up for Power BI, but you don't have what Microsoft classes a work email address. If you go to office.com/E5, E5 is actually the name of one of the enterprise level packages that Microsoft sell. So it's they have E3, they have E5, they have E1, and each one comes with different things. But if you sign up for a free 30-day trial of an E5 package, you will get an onmicrosoft.com email address. So for example, you might get a Mike's demo .onmicrosoft.com email address. You pick the bit before the onmicrosoft.com, and that becomes what is called your tenant. It's a bit like your domain. It's got to be unique globally, but then you use that email address to sign up for a Power BI free account. I know I've put trial there, but actually it's a free account, and you can use that free account even after your 30-day trial has ended. So you're signing up for a 30-day free trial of the Office package, but then you can use that email address permanently for Power BI. So as I said, I was going through that because somebody asked me about it during the week. So let's come out of that. Okay, what I'm going to do in this demo is take you through creating a report. I know I did it last week, but I didn't do it in any great detail because last week I was talking more about what Power BI is and just giving you an overview. So I'm going to create a report from some data that is in a SQL Server database, and it's HR data. But I'm also going to focus today on calculated fields, and more about those shortly when we get to them. So I have a SQL Server database, and I want to connect to it from Power BI to build my report. Now I can actually build my report from the Power BI website. I can go to powerbi.microsoft.com, I can log in, which I've done here, and then I can click the plus sign and it lets me create a report. But as with most browser-based tools, the functionality you get in the browser is nowhere near what you get in the desktop app. So instead of using the browser, I'm going to use the desktop app, which is free, but it only works on Windows. So I'll run the Power BI desktop app, and once it's run and it's loaded, and this is Power BI, I'm going to connect to the data. Power BI can support lots of different data sets. I'm going to use SQL Server, which is listed on the Home tab in the data section. And because I've chosen SQL Server, I have to put in the information that Power BI needs, which in this case is the server details. Whereas if I'd clicked on Excel, then I have to put in the name of the Excel file and so on and so on. So what you fill in here is dependent on what your data source is. So in this case, because it's SQL Server, I need the name of the server, which is Win10/SQL Express. That's just the name of my server. Click OK. You may have just noticed there was two options. There was import and there was direct query. With import, and they aren't available on all data types. For Excel, for example, with Excel, it's not direct query isn't available. But with SQL Server it is, and the difference is import actually imports the data into this Power BI file. Direct query doesn't. Direct query leaves the data in the database. Obviously the benefit of that is you get a smaller Power BI file because the data's not being pulled into it, but the downside is that there is functionality that isn't available. I'm also just going to keep my eye on questions. I don't see any questions. Okay, so we just had a bit of a buffering problem. Right, okay, so that is the name of the database. Within that database we have a table called employees, and this table has got 30,000 records in it, and I want to use this table, so I'll select it and click load. And once it's loaded the data into the data model, which is basically the storage area within Power BI, this is where I can now create my file, my report. Before I do though, I've got three icons on the left hand side. I've got the report icon. Clicking that takes me to the report design screen, which is where I am now. I've got the data icon, and I've got the data model icon. The data model icon just shows me the names of the tables in this report along with the column names, and you can use this to create links or relationships between them. If I go to the data section, in order to see the data I need to kickstart it by clicking one of the column names over on the right. It's a known bug. I was talking to somebody from Microsoft this week and confirmed it's a known bug, but there's my data. And as I said, the first section is where you design your report. Now, before I actually design the report, well actually before I do anything else, I'm going to hit save. And when you hit save, you are saving the file, you're creating a PBIX file, which is a Power BI file. And what you're saving is the report design, which I know I haven't done anything yet. And you're also saving the data. So let's save this as employee report and click save. Now you could create more than one report. So I've imported the data into this file. I could create several employee reports. Each one is a separate file. Or I could have one employee report and create multiple pages. It's really up to you how you do it. But before I create any report, what I actually want to focus on today is transforming the data. Now, why would you transform the data? Very often, when the data is imported into Power BI, it's not in the right format to be used immediately. So chances are you will need to do some kind of data transformation or data manipulation. And to do that, you go to the Home tab and you click Transform Data, Transform Data. So here is the data, 30,000 rows of data, quite a number of columns, and this has been imported in from the SQL Server database. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of the column types. If we scroll across, you can see that some of the data types, and this little icon here just to the left of the column name, that tells us what the data type is. Some of those data types aren't correct. The employee number's text, so that's fine. The first name is text, that's fine. Surname is text, that's fine. Annual salary is numeric, that's what the 1, 2, 3 means, so that's fine. We have a problem with the hire date and the date of birth and the leave date. None of those are being treated as dates. They're all being treated as text, and that means that we won't be able to do any calculations on that data. We wouldn't be able to calculate somebody's age given their date of birth, for example. we wouldn't be able to calculate how long somebody's been at the company given their hire date. So I'm going to click the ABC and I'm going to choose a date. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this column and the same thing with this column. And that's created now 3 date fields. Well, they were text fields before. I'm also going to change the data type for the last appraisal rating column because it's decided that it's a decimal number field. Well, when you have an annual appraisal at this company, you get a score, and that score is 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. There's no decimal numbers here, so I'm going to change it to be a whole number. So that's the first thing I've done, and very often that is something that you will have to do. You'll have to look at your data and check that the data types are correct, and quite often they're not. And it's all to do with how the data is stored in the original data source. Now, if you look on the right hand side of the screen, you've got a block called Applied Steps. When you make a change to the data using this query editor, and I think we covered the query editor in the past in Excel, it's the same query editor in Power BI as in Excel.
Neil's got access issues.
Neil's got access issues.
He hasn't got any.
I found out my employer wouldn't let me have access in Excel to the BI data models. That's not good, Neil. That's not good. I think you'll have to beg a bit more. Yeah, that's the that's the problem, isn't it, with employers, yes. And I was trying to think of the word you used earlier. Ayatollahs, Tin Pot Hitlers.
Oh yes, Tin Pot Hitlers.
Lenins.
He said, I thought, a good question.
Yeah, they were actually curious as to why I would never need to. Yeah, it's a good question. I remember, just changing the subject totally, do you remember that software company I worked for many years ago? And we wanted to borrow a piece of kit. And the guy said, what for? They're like custodians, aren't they?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So what did you tell him, Neil? That you just because you wanted to play and learn, and it was a personal development opportunity. There's a good one. There's a good one to go back with. Personal development opportunity. Yeah, anyway, on the right hand side of the screen we've got this this applied steps box, and basically every time you perform an action on your data, it creates an entry in that applied step box. So in a way it's a bit like the macro recorder, where the macro recorder records your actions. That's what this is doing here. So the first 2 steps I didn't create. The first 2 steps are all to do with getting the data into Power BI from wherever the data is right now, which in this case is the employees database on the SQL server, and then navigating to that data. So it has added those 2 steps. But then the third step is the changed type step. Now you would have expected it to have generated 4 changed type steps, because we actually changed the type of 4 columns, 3 date columns and the annual appraisal rating column. But no, what it does is, because it sees me performing the same action 4 times, immediately one after the other, it wraps those 4 actions up into one step. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I can see the benefit of it because it reduces the number of steps. But the downside of it as well is that if you wanted to reverse one of those steps, then you'd have to delete the entire step, which you do, by the way, by clicking that little red cross there, and that would then take the last appraisal rating back to being a decimal and the 3 date fields back to being text. So it, you know, it has its good points and its bad points. Okay, now that's not all we're going to do in this data transformation session, because one of the things that I want to do is I want to remove the TET, which stands for the Excel trainer, by the way. I want to remove the TET dash from the employee number field. So I just want to show the employee number as the 5 numeric characters, and I can do this in one of 2 ways. I can click onto the employee number column, go to transform, and then use find and replace. So replace values, and what I want to replace is TET dash, and I want to replace it with nothing. So that's one way that I can get myself left with just the employee number. The other way I can do it, so I will remove the replaced value step, delete that step, and it brings the data back. The other way I can do that is to click on the column heading to select the whole column, and then choose split column by non-digit to digit. And what it's done is it's split the employee number column, it's created 2 columns, and then what I would probably do is delete the employee number 1 column by selecting it and going to home, remove columns, and then renaming the second column to be employee number, which you can do by double clicking on the column heading or right clicking the column heading and selecting rename. But either way, I've ended up with the employee number. Now, if you notice on the right hand side, we've got 3 steps. Whereas if I delete those 3 steps, so I can either do that off the transform menu or the right click on the column heading and doing replace, not replace errors, my mistake there. Replace values, I could replace TET dash with nothing, and that just gives me 1 step. So you can delete these steps, you can move these steps around, so you can drag and drop them around if you want to, and you can also rename them. So if I right click on the replaced value and selected rename, I could rename this one and call it remove TET from employee number, just to make it a bit more descriptive. I'm not going to rename them all now. I've shown you how to do it once. Okay, now what else do I want to do? Well, I want to format the annual salary as currency with 2 decimal places, because that way, if I include the annual salary on my report, it will include the decimal places and the currency symbol. So what I will do is select the annual salary column, and on the right click there isn't an option to format it, but I can do that from the transform tab, and then I can do rounding here. Can't do decimal. Just bear with me a second. Let's have a fixed number of okay, I can do a fixed number of decimal places, so I can get the pounds and pence or the dollars and cents in there. I should be able to format it as a currency, but it's not letting me. There is another way to format it as currency, which I will come back to later. Oh, hang on, there it is. Is that it? No, it's not. Where's it gone? Okay, I'll leave that. I'll leave that for the moment. No, it's not on here. Okay, but let's go on to more interesting transformations. I want to remove the employee number column. I actually decide I don't want the employee number column, so if I did want to remove it, just right click and remove, and that column has gone. Actually, I do want that column. I was just showing you that you can remove columns if you want to. Why would you remove columns? Because the fewer columns you include, the smaller your file will be and the faster your reports will run. So yes, I've had to import all this data. One option is that you go to your database administrators and you say, can you run me a report, or can you run me an export from the HR database and include this column, this column, this column, but not this column, not this column, not this column. But we know from the experience that Neil has had with his employer and database administrator or whoever's managing it, that they're not always compliant. So sometimes you won't always get what you're after. Okay. So just be aware that there might be columns that you want to remove, and it will just keep your data tidier. And to do it, just right click and then remove the column. Another thing I am going to do is rename the leave date column to date of exit. So double click on there, date of exit. And I'll also remove anyone who has left the company. So we've got 30,000 records in here, but we currently don't have 30,000 employees. We have about 27,000 employees, because this is a list of anyone who has ever worked at the company from when the company was launched in 2001 to the present day. So anybody who has left the company will have a date of exit. Anyone who is still employed will have a null. Because for this particular report I'm not interested in the people who've left the company, I will remove them. If I was to build another report, I might choose to keep them. So it all depends on what you're trying to do. So it's a good idea just to think ahead when you sit down and you think, okay, I've got Power BI, I'm going to build some reports. This particular report I'm going to build, which, remember, is in a separate file of its own, is only going to focus on current employees. But you might be doing another report, and that of course would be in a totally different PBIX file, and that might be focusing on employees who left the company. Maybe somebody wanted a report that showed how long each person who's left the company had been employed. Somebody might have been employed for a month. Now that could have been because they made a bad choice, so they decided that the job wasn't for them and they left. Or maybe they were unlucky that after a month the company had to let them go. So it all depends on what you're trying to analyse. But in this case, I'm going to click the drop down arrow where it says next to where it says date of exit, and I'm going to only keep the nulls. So if you have null, then it means you haven't left. And that is going to reduce the size of the file. Because what happens is, every time you refresh the report. And if I close this query editor down for a minute and keep the changes and just go back to the report design, every time you hit refresh, what it actually does is it runs through the steps in the transform data section. So it goes out to the database, pulls in the data that's in there, changes the data types of the columns we specified, removes TET from the employee number column, renames the leaving date column to date of exit, and filters out the people who have left the company. So it will leave you with a smaller data set than you have original records. Okay, let's go just check any questions. No, I don't think there are. All right. Okay, so what I've done there is a few things which are to do with tidying up the data. But there's more that you can do with this query editor than tidying up the data. For example, you might need in your report to show monthly salary. Well, we haven't got monthly salary. We have got annual salary. So I'm going to create a new column, and I'll do that by clicking Add Column, Custom Column. I'll give the column a name, call it monthly salary, and I'll create a formula. The formula, I'm keeping it simple for this first demo, is going to be annual salary divided by 12. Instead of typing annual salary, I will double click on it from this list here. So annual salary divided by 12, click OK. And it's created me a monthly salary column. I can leave the monthly salary column there, or I can drag it over and have it next to the annual salary. Doesn't really matter where the columns live, where the order is left to right, because to be perfectly honest, the data is hidden when you are building. Well, it's not hidden, but the order from left to right is irrelevant when you're designing the report. But you can see that it's created two extra steps. One is added custom, so it's added a custom column, and the other is reordered columns when I dragged the monthly salary column over to the left. Again, if you were doing this for real, you would probably rename those steps to make them more meaningful and more sensible. And you'll notice that some of those steps have got a cogwheel next to them. So you can click on the cogwheel and it opens up the information about that step. So one, you could use it as a reminder, what did I actually do in that step? The other, you could make changes. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another column which is going to be what we call a location code. So each employee, we have listed their location. So which office they're based in. Are they based in our Tokyo office, or Seattle office, or Manchester office, etc., etc. And just like airlines have a 3-character code representing the airport, this company also has a 3-character code to represent the office. So what I want to do is I want to create another column. I could actually do this in two ways. I could change the location column to just show the first 3 characters, or I could create an extra column to show the first 3 characters and call it location code. So you've actually got a couple of options. I'll do it by creating a new column. So add column, custom column, and it's saying to me, am I sure I want to insert a step? Because if I continued, it would actually add this step after the step that's currently highlighted. Now, quite often that's okay, but it might cause your query to break. In this case, it would actually be okay because the step that's highlighted, added custom, is the one that creates the monthly salary. So I could quite happily create this new column and then move the monthly salary to the left. But in the interests of trying to keep it top to bottom, I'll go to the reordered column step and I'll insert the custom column here. So I will call this one location code and the formula. Now here I'm actually going to write the formula, and it's going to be a little bit more complex than salary divided by 12. I want, as I said, to extract the first 3 characters from the location column, and I want them to be displayed in uppercase. So I put text dot upper. The nice thing about this version of the query editor is that you do have autocomplete. So text dot upper, shouldn't have said text dot upper, I'll do that again. Text dot upper, open brackets, text dot start, open brackets, location, comma 3, close bracket, close bracket. If you're familiar with Excel, which most of you are, what that is going to do is it's going to capture the first 3 characters of the location field. So it's very much like the left function in Excel. Because we're starting from the left hand side, that's why we use text.start. And just like you've got the upper function in Excel, text.upper is the equivalent. The code that you're looking at now is Power Query Editor code. The proper term for that code is M. M for Mike. That's the name of the language. So you create your formulas to create your custom columns using M. Now we're just dipping our toes in the water as far as M is concerned today. M can get a lot more complicated. But I'll click on OK. Alright, what have I done there? Now I can either click on the cogwheel and go and edit the code, or I can edit the code at the top here in the formula bar. It's very much like when you record a macro and it creates VBA for you. When you use the nice interface to create your step, it writes the M code for you. So what have I done? I think I've added too many closing brackets. So just remove one and press enter. No, it still doesn't like that. This text.upper got to be in capital U. Okay, what's the problem? Something it doesn't like. Location code, each text.upper bracket, text.start bracket. I've broken it, yeah. Yes, we both seem to be having that problem, don't we? Okay. Let's delete that step and try it again, shall we? Because it worked in rehearsals, very much like yours. Yeah. Right, custom column.
Neil's got far more important things to worry about. Jonathan might have nodded off.
If Jonathan's nodded off, then I take total responsibility. Right.
Jonathan's nodding off, I'm having a party.
Location code, let's try this again, equals text.upper. Because the other thing about writing this code is that it is case sensitive. Text.upper, text.start, open brackets, choose a location, comma 3, close bracket, close bracket. Click OK. There we go, now it's worked. And it does require 3 brackets at the end. So I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what I did last time. Anyway, you can see what it's done. It's picked up the first 3 characters of the location field and it's displayed them in capitals. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to display the name of the month where the person was hired. Because if we look at the hire date column, it's just got the actual full date, 12th of March 2001. And so what I'm going to do is add another column, which I'm going to call hire month. And the formula for this will be date.month, date.month name, actually, date.month name. I wish it would stop doing that. Date.month name, that's better. Open brackets and select hire date. And there you go, you can see it's picked out the month from the hire date and given you the full name. Now, if you're wondering why I'm doing all this, ultimately, remember, we want to produce some reports, and we might want to include this information on the reports. I will show you an example shortly. And the last thing I want to do in here is create another column to show full years of service, because I want to produce a report that includes full years of service. So this is how I would do that. I'm going to select the hire date column and I'm going to click on add column, date, age. Okay, add column, date, age. And that has created a column called age. But what you're seeing in that column is the number of days. It's the number of days between today and the hire date. So what I want to do is I want to show it as years. Now, normally what I would do if I wanted to show the number of days as years is I would take the number of days and divide it by 365.25, and that would give me the number of years. But there's actually an easier way in the query editor than having to mess around with formulas. So I will select this age column and I will click on duration total years, and that creates another column called total years, which has got the number of years in it. But if you look at the number of years, it's showing me that this person has worked for this company for 19.3 years or 19.2 years or 3.7 years. So in order to show the whole years, we need to round that number down. So with the total years column selected, we click rounding, round down. And that now has given us the actual number of years. So I want to remove these two columns here, age and total years, remove those. And then the round down column, I will rename back to full years of service. So that is showing us for every employee how long they've worked at the company. I will now close down the query editor. And before we wrap up this session and hand back to Elaine, what I will do is I will give you an example of a report. So, first of all, you can see that down the right hand side we have all the fields, including the ones that we've created, like monthly salary and location code. So if I was to add in, for example, a bar chart, and I was to drag the location code onto the axes box, and I was to drag the monthly salary onto the values box, that will now give me a chart that shows me the total salary for each location. So I've added a chart onto the report design screen, and I've used on it 2 of my calculated fields. Now, there's a lot more that you can do, obviously, but I think I will leave that until next week. So I will save my file and I will close it down. So hopefully that has been a useful session, giving you an introduction to what the query editor can do and why you would use it. Is Johnny still awake?
No, we think he's asleep.
We think it's all over.
We think Jonathan has nodded off.
Right.
Remains to be seen. It's not going well over here. Apart from the fact that my poor iMac's melted, my iPhone's completely unresponsive. And this is now its cooler. And can you hear that noise?
Yes.
I think it's that.
Mm.
That could be what Neil's hearing. Come over there and put your ear to it. Deborah says she wishes she needed to use it at this level. Right. Let me... Because we're going back to you shortly, aren't we?
Yes.
We've got a shared demo. Right, where are we? We are... there. Yes! Bingo! Earlier in the week, it was WWDC. And a good few years ago, we started doing bingo cards. Said bingo card. That's this one. Basically, it's all in good humour. It's all a bit of a giggle. There are phrases that appear in multiple keynotes, and there are other things that are specific to individual keynotes. But basically, we merge together some potential stuff that might happen, you know, like iOS 14 on there, and it just works. Those were the days. We think it's great. That's another classic Timism. Tim says next week. There's another one. So we have a range of options on the card.
Cheers, Neil. Enjoy your croissants.
Ooh, croissants. Enjoy. So what we do is we create a range of bingo cards, and it's usually somewhere between 100 to 150. But Jonathan, who has had the temerity to nod off, but hello, good morning, Jonathan, tomorrow. He'll be back by then. I do need to add Jiggy mode. You're quite right. Jiggly mode.
I use Jiggy mode. The other day I did my iPad training, and I decided to use the words Jiggy mode or Jiggly mode.
Jiggly mode.
Jiggly mode, yes.
I shall add that to the list. But some of these that go back quite a while. Some of them are new. Some of them are classics that we've all enjoyed. One thing I did notice from this time was that we had quite a few new people with us. And they were asking, you know, what does this mean? Where's this one come from? One was Tim Cook's praying fingers. Basically, he puts his hands together in like a praying thing. He was doing that a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I thought next time it would be handy maybe to make these interactive, and you can click through and find out where they came from. But basically, this time I needed quite a few of these for Jonathan, because Jonathan's favourite number was 613. So I said to Mike, that's okay, we'll do 613. That wasn't the best idea we've ever had. And I'm certainly not trying it tonight. We're going to do 10. But the principles are exactly the same. So that was the bingo card. It went out. You could download whichever number you wanted between 001 and 613.
No, 612.
Well, 612, because obviously Jonathan's was 613.
Yes, we reserved that for Johnny.
He had, bless him. So it's basically, how do you create that? And back in 2012, it took 2 applications, and it was fine. And now, now it's a performance. Just as an overview, I started off with the list, and it's a single list of items we wanted to include. So BAM, next week, illuminated backside, all of the classics. And that was in a text file, which I then sent to Mike to do some magic with in Excel. What he needed to do was turn my list of one single line, because there's no point having all those cards if they're all the same, into multiple lines with no duplicates. That was the tricky bit. Then the data would have been returned to me, and it would have needed to go into Word for a mail merge. But obviously that would have left us with something pretty poor in terms of the way it looked. So before it sort of, as well as the data went into Word, so did the design that I made. But that came out of Affinity Designer. From Word, we generated a PDF with 613 pages. And then we needed to weave more magic to separate those into 613 different files. So that's the idea. That's what we're going to show you how we did. So somewhere here I've got my data, which, as I say, started life incredibly simply as just a text file. So where is it?
This two-hander. It's like being at an Apple Keynote where they hand over, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes. Are you going to be Craig and run round?
And talk about jiggly icons.
Yes, that's Craig. Right, so here's my source file, which is literally just 1K. It's a text file full of one line, one things. So we've got Tim Says Next Week, 2 terabyte iPads, the prayer finger. There's the prayer finger. It's basically all of the things that you may want. Now, there were 61 of them, but we're quite happy to add and take away. So, for instance, this one here has been on every bingo card for the last 10 years. We would like independent user accounts on an iPad. That's why I put in 10-year anniversary request. Still not there. One day. So I send that text file to Mike. So shall I hand back to you now?
Yes.
Right, I send that to Mike, and then he has it in Excel. There we go. Right, I can see you now.
Right, okay. So what I did is I copied and pasted the 61 entries into a brand new Excel file, and I've already done that just to save a bit of time, so you can see that here. And then what I did is I added a second worksheet to this file, sheet 2, and I added item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, etc. all the way over to item 24, because we decided that we were going to have 24 squares on each bingo card. But if we decided next time to have 48 squares...
Oh yeah, because I've got nothing else to do but sit there doing this.
Or 12 squares, then I would change the number accordingly.
You have to have enough squares to give people a fair chance.
Yeah.
But you know that no one's ever going to get them all, because some of them are mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
So it's a giggle, but
Yeah.
it's a good giggle. We
It
always
is.
have fun.
Now, the way that I generated those items was to type item 1 and item 2, highlight both of them, and then just drag the mouse across, and it just does an auto-fill. So all the way across, it just basically takes the word item and increments the number. Okay, so that's the point we were at. I then used the random generator add-in that I bought a couple of years ago. and I'll show you how I did that. This, by the way, this is the random generator add-in that I was telling you about a couple of weeks ago that didn't work properly. Because if you go to, you'll see this on my ribbon, AbleBits Data, that's the company that makes it. Go to their random generator. What I wanted to do with the random generator was I wanted to be able to edit these numbers, not for this particular thing, but this is the problem that I had where I wanted to manually edit those numbers to be able to have a random set of random integers, and it wasn't letting me manually overtype. But what I did is I took the list of 61 items and I created a custom list from that list of 61 items. So you can see in the custom list section of the random generator tool, I've got those 61 items there. So what I then did is I selected the whole lot. What I actually did is, let's say I wanted 30 cards. I know we said we'd do about 10 cards today, not going to do all 613, but let's say I wanted 30 cards. So I'm highlighting 30 rows and 24 columns, and then I clicked on the entry here, which was the 61 items, and clicked on generate. The problem with that is that, hang on, I didn't want the unique values ticked. Let me go and do that one again. Need to get rid of those extra items. So I'm highlighting 24 columns, but I'm highlighting as many rows as there were cards that we wanted. And then I clicked on generate. What that has done is that has generated random values. So it's taken the 61 items in that list and it's randomly put them across all of these cells. The problem we've got though is that there are duplicates. There could well be duplicates down the columns and there could well be duplicates across the rows. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted to make sure that across each row and down each column there were unique values, because we didn't want the same item appearing more than once on a specific card. Now there is a tick box there that says unique values, but the problem with doing that is, get rid of these, that if I selected the same amount of data, 24 columns and 30 rows, and I did that again, it will only fill in 61 cells. So I ended up selecting 2 rows and then doing generate, and then 2 more rows and doing generate, and 2 more rows and doing generate, and that obviously is not going to work. So I came up with another suggestion, or another option. So let's close this one down. Okay, let's go back into it. So sheet 1 has got the down column A has got the list of items. In B1 I typed equals rand. Now I wish Johnny was still here, although he's going to hopefully pick it up in the morning, because this takes us on to a question that he had last week, which was about generating unique values without using that add-in. And this is how I did it. So by using the equals rand command, what this does is it generates a number between 0 and 1. And I copied that number down to row 61. There is a very, 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 very small possibility of duplicates when you do this. But I tested this multiple times with several hundred cells and there were no duplicates. So theoretically you can, but it's very, very, very unlikely. You can check for duplicates, by the way. So if you select B1 to B61 and then use conditional formatting to highlight duplicates, if there were any duplicates, they would be highlighted in whatever rule settings you'd use for conditional formatting. So let's just undo that to clear the conditional formatting. Then in C1 I used another function. I used the index function. The index function returns the contents of a specific cell within a range. And you provide the range, you provide the row number, and you provide the column number. So let me give you an example. If I put equals index and then I specify the range as A1 to A61, and I'll need to make that absolute because I'm going to copy it down and I want to keep the same reference, then a comma, and then I pick a number. I'm just going to randomly pick 5. That's the row number, and then the column number is 1. What I've just done is I've just told Excel to give me whatever is in the cell that is 5 rows down in column A. So 5 rows down is macOS 10.16, and that is what it has returned. So if I go and change it to 7, it's now returned MacBites Flapjack is made the official Keynote snack.
As it should be.
I don't think anyone would have ticked that one off on Monday night.
No, but next time if we make it.
True, but that is the 7th one down. Now, we always want it to look at A1 to A61. We always want it to look at column 1 because it's a single column array, it's just column A. But we want it to look at a different row. So what I actually did is I used another function. I used the rank function. What?
You hear kids saying that's rank.
I've never heard that. I've heard skank.
Rank?
Yeah.
Oh, rank means like rancid.
Oh, like skank.
Yes.
Right. What the rank function does is it shows the position of the number in column B within the entire list in column B. So if you had a list of numbers and you wanted to rank them in order without actually sorting them, you can use the rank function. So what I'll do is I'll put equals rank B1, comma, B1 to B61. And make that absolute. And the answer I get is 14. Now, what does that actually mean? Let's make this column a bit narrower so we can see that 14. What it means is it means that the number in B1 is the 14th number in that list. Now, obviously, it's not the 14th number because it's the first number, but if you were to order those numbers, lowest to highest, that number there would be the 14th number. Why are we doing all this? Well, we're doing all this to actually generate a numeric value, which is then going to be the position, the item that we pick from column A. So in effect, what we're saying is we want to pick the 14th item from column A, and that will go as one of the items on a particular card. So you're using a combination of index and rank to generate a numeric value, which then will pick out a value from column A. So it's like saying, give me the xth value or the nth value. That nth is generated by a number. And that, Johnny, who's currently asleep, is how you can generate a random number without using the generator that I bought. So if I just go back to my formula in column C, I'm going to change the 7, which I hard coded in, to be rank, open brackets, B1, comma, and then B1 to B61. There we go. Make that absolute as well. Okay, so I've removed the formulas from column D. So what it's done is it's generated Mac OS 10.16. The reason is because it's looked at the number 0.04573037, and that number is the 14th number, sorry, the 5th number in that list, if that list was sorted. So if I copy that down, what I've now got is I've now got 61 unique values in column C, which is basically the values from column A just randomly sorted. Now, if I copied column C over to column D, I'm getting an error. The reason I'm getting an error, if I just copy that and paste that, is because it's now referring, the formula's referring to column C. When you copy a formula across, it's referring to column C. So what I would need to do is I would need to fix column B to be absolute. You'll notice, by the way, that every time I make a change to the formula or even edit any cell in the spreadsheet, what it's doing is it is recalculating, because the rand function automatically recalculates every time. Anyway, we've still got a problem. We've got a problem because if I was to copy all of these across, I would get the same value for every column. So what you have to do is you have to select the rand values and then copy and paste values so that you're replacing the formulas with numbers. Then you'd have to copy these into what I've called the final output sheet, and then you'd have to paste transpose to get them pasted across, because the items are in a column in the original spreadsheet and they need to be in a row for the final output. But it all gets very, very long-winded. If I'd done this manually for 613 cards, it would have taken me forever. So what I did is I did a macro to automate it. So what I've done is I've taken you through the concept, but I've automated it with a macro. So if I go to the macros and run the macro, how many bingo cards do we want? We want 10, but you could type in any number you like there. Click on OK. What it's going to do is it's going to generate 10 cards. It takes about 30 seconds, I think, 30-40 seconds to generate the 10 cards. This is a long 40 seconds, or is it me?
Just in your mind.
Well, we did it in rehearsals and it only took us 40 seconds.
I'm beginning to think rehearsals was on a different planet. Rehearsals were fine.
Yes, doing it for real, but that's not.
What about the time it took for those files to appear on mine? I think my hard drive's going.
That's not good.
This
right,
is,
there
this
we
is because
go.
my Apple Care's out of date.
There we go. Right, so we have 10 cards. So what I've done is I've basically written a macro to convert that into that. What I then did is I then sent the file back to you, and
You're going to send it to me.
I will send it to you. Yes, I will send it to you. Right.
Eventually it'll appear.
Yeah, you only need to use the final output sheet then. Let's minimize that. Let's go to the black hole. And
Getting there.
getting there, drops for Elaine.
Right, you're sending it to me. I'll share my screen.
Right, I've now sent it to you.
Awesome. Right.
Whether you received it's a different matter.
It'll arrive eventually under its own steam. Okay, so I went into Affinity Designer, and the first thing I did was File New, and I made sure, so people could print it out, that I chose Print and A4. But in here I flipped it sideways. I did create an artboard, and I did actually include some margins, so I think that would be pretty similar. Only it was the other way, but you get the idea. So having done that, it's A4, size was right. Then actually this was probably the easiest bit. Mike had way more grief. Oh, hello Peter. Enjoy. Right, so what I did was I put a background on it, which was my background here. So if we turn off some of these things, you can see what I actually started with, which was just the background. So that is literally just a shape with a fill on it to have it lighter in the middle. The most important thing, the blue that you see here, is the margins, but that was really just to keep the central bit away from the edges. So I created just this box, and this box was 15 centimetres by 15 centimetres. Now what I could not do in Affinity Designer is the mail merge part of it. One option should be to go over to Affinity Publisher, do the mail merge in there. But as we know, it doesn't do mail merge. So at some point, this has got to see Word, unfortunately. So what I would need to do in Word is to create the table that would fit into this marker. So that's literally just a marker. The rest of it is incredibly simple. It's just graphical elements put on there. Making sure that this bit was in a viewable place. So we wouldn't want that to be over here and